Welcome to the Car Bar, where we cut through the hype and we get real about automotive, real automotive people, talking about real automotive issues. Steve?
Today, we get to me, this is the most special one so far. And I don't want to denigrate anybody that's been here before or comes afterwards, but when you and Dale came up with this idea, this guy was one of the very, very first people that I reached out to and said, would you please come do this? Because I knew how impactful it was. So to give you a little background, and this, hopefully a lot of people relate with this. When I was a kid, the monkeys in The Wizard of Oz scared the crap out of me. Okay, that was the worst thing in the whole movie. The monkeys running around, everybody got scared. And my wife and I went and saw the Sphere one recently, and it's pretty cool. But the best part was the end of the movie, not the big giant green burning head, but when Toto pulls the curtain back and you really find out who the Wizard of Oz is. And that guy is Mike Bacosa from CNA National. And I'm so thankful that you took the time to come and join us today.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
You okay with that analogy?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Sure, I'll take it.
Well, but so we're going to talk about all kinds of really cool stuff today. And you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yes.
And I have I learned so much from you on this side of the business, and you have so much to offer people because, number one, in my opinion, you're the best I've ever seen at the position you are, which is Vice President of Claims.
So Vice President Claims,
Yep.
And now Operations and Sales Support.
Yeah, and so our experience together in claims, that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. And the problem with, one of the many problems with our industry, and we've had a couple guests recently kind of helping people understand this, but it is a curtain that you stand behind, that the majority of people in numbers in our business have no idea, no clue what happens, why it happens. That's some really amazing stuff. And that's why I had such a lot of excitement of getting you here, because I think once we get you rolling, you're not afraid, you're passionate about it. So I know you're just going to amp up and not be Mr. Oh my God, I'm on a podcast. First time?
First time, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
we've had a couple first timers. You'll feel the love.
I
and there's
had
a bunch of it.
aspirations to have a YouTube channel though, so maybe this is the start, right?
We're gonna get there.
We should start there. I mean, that's a tough thing to follow, Steve. And again, Oz, welcome. Or Wizard of, I don't know what you go by, Mike, but that's going to make its way back to Scottsdale, by the way. I guarantee
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
I'll make sure of it.
Guaranteed.
That is a guarantee. One thing I know for sure, Mike, we're gonna start out with some icebreaker questions. We're gonna take it easy. This is your proverbial. No, I'm not gonna say that. Was gonna say something. I'm gonna hold that. We're not 15 seconds into the video yet, so no cuss words. So with that being said, before we get into anything technical, there is no curtain. Well done, Steve.
Thank you.
That covers the internet. I'm going to ask a quick question. What is, in today's world, let's start where people live now, online, what is one unpopular opinion about service contracts, claims, or F&I that would absolutely light up the reviews online?
Well, I think there's a reputation, service contract industry, especially in regards to claims, right? It's always you're looking for a way out of it. That's
the perception.
You hear that all the time, right? And I think that, CNA, which I've been part of, I've had the luxury of and the honor of being part of the claims team for more than 29 years,
Right.
at CNA, and the entire time I've been there, and it's one of the reasons why I've stayed so long is because we do it right. We take care of our clients. We don't look for the gotchas. We don't look for ways out of claims. We never have, and I can say that truthfully for the entire time I've been there, and honestly, it's like I've had opportunities to go other places, and I choose to stay primarily because of that. It's I feel good about what I do every day when I go home. It's feel good about taking care of our clients and our customers, feel good about taking care of you, Steve, and our mutual customers, and it's quite an honor to be part of that team.
You go home at night feeling better that you helped the customer, not you don't feel good that I didn't pay that claim today. And I think people have that perception.
It is. It's the boogeyman. It's the boogeyman, right? The perception is simply they're trying to find a reason to say no. versus trying to help a customer say yes in a claim. And that is one thing where you guys excel.
Yeah, and you're helping people. You know, it's one of those jobs where I think people they miss the point. Like, you're helping people every day,
Right.
literally thousands a day that we get to help.
You know, it's a little off topic what he did, but I don't know if I told you this once. I had a meeting with a parts director who'd been doing it for 25 plus years and some other service advisors in a service department explaining some different things that they don't understand and some of it related to what you do. And he said, well, let me ask you a question. And he was real skeptical as I. And I've known the guy for 20 plus years. He goes, so every time they turn down a claim or don't pay for a part or something like that, do they get paid commission on that? Yeah, I'd never heard that before. I've been doing this almost 40 years. I'm like, what? I mean, it just hit me sideways. And I'm like, no, what? Why do you think that? Well, how do they get paid? I go, hourly? He says, seriously? I'm like, yeah, there's no commission base in this.
That's correct.
There's somebody on a phone following the guidelines of a contract. It could be a life insurance policy. Now, you guys don't do that, but it's any policy that you buy, and that's all they're doing.
That's right.
But you guys have always gone out of your way to help the customer, and that's why we've done so much business for so long and appreciate it. So
Yeah, it's been a good partnership because you do the same thing. You're looking out for your dealer. Conversely, the dealer wants to make sure the customer's taken care of, and that's where we come in. That's where we fit in. It's a great partnership.
but the internet doesn't make it easy.
It does not.
I mean, it's unfortunate that what do they call them, keyboard warriors? I'm not one of them that
Yeah,
can
and it
throw shade on everything.
continues to get more challenging. You know, so that's why you got to stay on top of your toes and do the best you can every day. You know,
It's hard to be friendly with the mob occasionally, but that leads into this next question
Yep.
too. What is one piece, and again, we're going to go back to the YouTube space, right? Because that's where we're at today, of course. But what's one piece of dealer or F&I advice that you keep seeing online that sounds smart in your world, but it falls apart the second the real claim hits the desk?
Before you answer, forgive me, because you are a little soft-spoken. I'm just going to move this up a little bit.
Sure.
You're good. Sorry.
More whiskey, Mike.
more whiskey.
No, you're good.
Fire away, Mike.
So advice that we hear online that in practice probably isn't pretty good, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's bad. And again,
bad.
we can go, I'm an operations guy, so I could go into the how to buy a car the right way for dummies online or something along those lines, but those claim space.
So honestly, there's a couple things. Like I see a lot where people are talked out of buying service contracts. I see that quite a bit. Sometimes you'll see that even like on, you'll like Motor Trend or whatever. You'll see these, these little articles that come out and they're telling you not to buy a service contract. And I know it goes back to what we talked about of that perception
Yep.
that we don't
100%.
cover claims, and that part always it bugs me. I know that now. I know that there are some out there that do that, of course. We don't, and there's a lot of other providers that don't as well. But it's, I don't know. That's a tough question for me. Like, I'm not online a lot. I try not to get caught up in the noise, so to speak.
You mean you're not on the CNA National Reddit bulletins and reading all the...
I'm not.
No, neither am I.
Yeah, I try to.
It's a good answer.
Because I will tell you, like, you can get very distracted by the noise, online, and I'm sure all of us have been there. I was entertained. It was a little bit of a guilty pleasure for a while when I was reading, some of the service advice. Get on these service advisor forums and stuff, and I just have to shake my head sometimes, because you can tell that sometimes they're jaded, by experiences they've had, but I don't let the noise, distract me from what we're truly trying to do here.
It's a good
And to
answer.
be clear, so we're going to get into some history stuff, but CNA is the only service contract company you've worked for. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they are not one of, and Brian and I vehemently don't throw shade and trash on people's names out there. They are not a service contract company that you would see advertise online, advertise on TV, advertise anywhere. You're strictly a dealer-based company. You support dealers.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, so people can understand there is a difference. And it's sad that there are some bad actors, and I've said it too many times, law, medicine, every industry you can think of. In our space, you play completely on the bright side of the fence. There's no gray.
Yeah, we're not rappelling out of the ceiling saying, "Hey, did you buy extended warranty on your car?" It's
Right.
like, no, we don't do that.
We'll protect the innocent there, but there are some bad players, and in every industry, to Steve's point too. If you could, and we're notorious for this. We're in the car biz, right? But if there's one phrase in automotive you could completely delete from the lexicon, what would that word or what would that phrase be as it pertains to you?
Bumper to bumper.
There it is.
That one, I mean, that has been, I wouldn't say it's a thorn in my side, but it's just I think it's a misunderstanding, right? You know, I mean, not everything, no service contract covers everything between the two bumpers, right? You know, and so it always bugs me that is a sales tool. I understand it's a tactic that is used, you know, to kind of describe at a high level that this is a comprehensive coverage,
yeah.
right? You know, but there's a better way to say it than bumper to bumper, but I'm not a fan of that one.
If I would have had that $1 million, that's the phrase I would have bet on for sure that you would have chose. So that was perfect. What is one question dealers almost never ask you in publicly, but in private ask you all the time?
Ask me in private. Dealers.
Or, you know what? I'll open it up. Just your customers ask you in private versus avoid in public.
But avoid in public.
Didn't think you were going to have to think this hard.
Yeah,
It gets easier. Trust
It's
me.
an easier question. You
No,
think?
you're going to get easier. It gets easier.
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
I don't know. That is a tough question.
We're not tackling Iran today, Mike.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I could answer that one. That's a tough one. I don't.
Let me back you up there
Yeah.
too, because I think a lot of it goes to how transparent CNA is in their interactions too. I don't know that you're going to get one of those. Steve and I probably have a litany of answers to this question if we were asked that question.
Sure.
You know, that is very different. But again, to your credit, I'm going to let you off this one really easy and suggest that it probably has a lot to do with the transparency that you guys operate well within. So,
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, I've been asked before if we've got processes or procedures in place to limit coverage. I have been asked that before, you know, in private, and of course that's not the case.
Right.
You know, we have a standardized process across the board for all claims. You know, I mean, so it's I could say that would probably be it. I mean, I have been asked that before, is like, you know, something going on behind the scenes I'm not aware of, and that's not the case. You know, so we're pretty upfront and forward on how we handle things.
that's an even better answer.
Yep.
For people who don't know and don't know your full story yet, give us the elevator version. Who are you? How did a kid taking apart his Christmas presents end up running claims for a national F&I provider?
Great story. I actually had aspirations to be a technician, went to UTI, and was working at a car dealer. Started off as a lube tech, then I was a drivability guy for a short time. Quickly realized that it was hot out in the shop and the service advisors were in the air-conditioned booths and they were making more money than the technicians were. And so I begged, borrowed, and stealed for the service manager to see if I could get up in there. And, you know, so that was, 20 years old then, and got into right service and had a knack for chatting with people, you know, and building trust and rapport with people, which is, you know, service advisors, if they're really good at what they do, that's what they do. It's a relationship. This is a relationship business.
Absolutely.
You build that relationship, you build that trust with your customers or your clients, and you know they'll do anything for you as long as you express to them that you'll do the same. You know, and I quickly learned that was the right way to go as a service advisor. Unfortunately, there's always the bad actors at dealers too, and at the time there was a service manager that I was working for that was not on the up and up, and was asking me to do things that went against my morals and my ethics. And at the time, I had a friend of mine who had actually left the dealer, went to go work for CNA, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, they're hiring over here for a claims adjuster role. You should check it out. It's a pretty cool place." And I'm like, "Hey, what the heck?" And so I actually originally went over as a stopover. I didn't go over with any intention of staying there permanently. I went over as a stopover until I found a different service advisor job at a better dealer that I wanted to go to. And here I am, 29 years later, still here, right?
Best laid plans.
But when I got there, I just loved the place. Like I said, I like how we do things, how we treat our customers, how we treat our team members there at the office. And what I'm proud of there too is I'm one of the very few that's ever done every single role in the claims team. So so I think it gives me a unique view of the team and what they deal with every day. You know, I mean, I literally have done every single role on that team.
That's awesome.
Prior to becoming the leader.
That's
And you're a
awesome.
short timer at the company.
Yep, 29 and a half.
Yeah, Diana's 42,
Yeah, Diana's got me trumped. Mom's double, seems like.
and there's
Yeah.
a couple others in between. But
We got some 30s.
yeah, that's, to me, that's always spoken to businesses or dealerships. And I've talked in the past about the respect I had for my grandfather that worked for Woolworth for 49 years. And just, you don't see any of those anymore. So
It's not common.
it's unfortunately not. And they're not,
Yeah.
it's not any one person or business's fault. It's sometimes that's just life, but it's just uncommon.
Yep.
It's especially rare in the automotive space.
Yeah.
To be fair, we do kind of, we'll pull back the curtain a little bit further on that. I'll save some of
Sure.
that diatribe.
Can we talk about that later? I want to talk about turnover because he can speak to that, and it'll be reflective of the dealers for certain. And
Sure.
he has very
Absolutely.
little of it, so I think that's something so people might want to hear is how the hell does he get people to just stay and keep doing their job well?
Sure.
Telling his story. I guarantee that's a huge part of it. So we went from taking apart Christmas gifts to
What's the story behind that? I missed that. You took apart your Christmas gifts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was like anything like radio control cars, whatever, I had to take them apart to see how they worked, see if I could make them better,
Okay.
modify them, whatever. I mean, I honestly, I still do it today so, with my son. So, yeah.
well, speaking of son, we're gonna transition to maybe an experience with your father too. So you went from taking apart your Christmas gifts to working in the driveway with Dad on an old Jeep,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So with that being said, looking back now, how much of who you are today started in that driveway?
Oh, absolutely. He was the one who stoked the fire for my car interest.
Yeah.
My dad was a big, DIY guy. I mean, do it yourself, whether it was woodworking, building gazebos and decks, or working on cars. And remember, he replaced an engine in my sister's car when she was learning how to drive. She bought a little clunker and he fixed it up for her. And of course, I was out there right by his side, learning how to work on it. And we had a 1978 CJ5 Jeep that he had, and of course, we were always working on it to some degree. And then, of course, I acquired that when I graduated high school and fixed that up to be a big rock crawler. Ultimately sold that to help pay for a wedding.
Oh,
Kind of regret that a little bit today, but honestly, it was a great experience. So absolutely, my dad was a big driver behind my interest in working with my hands.
Was he a mechanic?
Mechanical side? No, he wasn't. He was a police officer. So it's but he just I just had a lot of really great memories with my dad. Who's still around today, but now I get to help him fix his stuff, right? So now he calls me when he's got a problem with his car, and I get to go over and take care of it.
When
So-
you became a technician, did he suddenly pick up the phone and call you for more technical reasons, or was he still, let me show you how that's done?
Yeah, he didn't really call too much. It wasn't until probably later in life when he just didn't want to work on his own cars anymore and do that. And so, so I would say that was as of recently, probably within the last 10 years, he's definitely more calls me up and has me take care of it.
Well, I figured after you went to technician school, he'd recognize you might know a few things.
A couple things.
might be like spending time with you too, which I think is something that's lost on this generation too.
yeah.
That unfortunately we're not fixing cars in the driveway with our kids anymore. Maybe we should take a note.
Yeah, it's a lost talent. So
It is for sure.
Even just changing oil, but it's pretty hard.
It is pretty. You pop the hood now, you don't even know what you're looking at.
taught my oldest son this weekend how to change oil in his car and rotate the tires and check the brakes. And he's getting ready to go on a road trip, so I'm big about, and it's funny because he had to check his spare tire, and it was a bet. He goes, it's laughable. He pushes on the tire and he goes, it feels good to me. And I'm like, son, this is not a bike tire. Okay, I mean, like, you're not going to check it with your fingers, And then we did a $20 bet that it was going to be flat, and it was. And so
Did he pay?
He did not.
He
So
did not? Okay, well, that tab is ongoing.
that's right.
So we're going to take a step back into the last question, this rapid fire. But having that retail experience, that was a Volvo and Mazda store, right? In Arizona, hot Arizona, we've identified that. What did retail teach you to shape how you run claims today or how you operate within CNA National today?
Yeah, so I think going back to that relationship building with the customers, right? So the retail piece, which for me was primarily on the service advisor side, building that trust and rapport with your, whether it's your customer, your clients, or, business partners that you're with, is the most critical piece. And then also partnering together and building teams, so at the dealership, as a service advisor, you don't really have teams, that you're kind of the lone wolf, right? You're taking care of yourself. But the one part that I was over a lot of tenants at that group. And the reason why is because when I got hired at the dealer, that was my first job, was a lot of tenants. So the service manager's like, well, you would be best suited to run that team then. And I quickly learned that motivating people, building trust, they know that you have their back, that you're going to do what's best for them, help them grow, is what I've carried into my role, right? And then when I came at CNA National, of course, I was a claims adjuster for about 7 years before I moved up into management positions. And so you're kind of the lone wolf as an adjuster a little bit, but when you become a supervisor and beyond there, you quickly learn that the success is, as a leader, is measured on the success of your team, right? And how you can make them grow and how you can help them succeed and whatnot. I've never been afraid of building up talent underneath me. A lot of leaders fail in that because they're worried about maybe somebody taking their role someday, I am not afraid of that at all. Like, I think that a leader's success is built on them building the talent underneath them to replace me if need be. If God forbid something happens to me, I can confidently say that I probably have at least 2 to 3 people right underneath me that could pick up the reins and go. Would it be different? Sure, because they have their own flavor, attached to it as well. But I'm big about building that talent, supporting the team, and then, building that trust and transparency. And I think, that's something that is missing in the world today a lot of times is that understanding that you got to build that transparency, that honesty, and that trust. And then you come at it with integrity and ethics, don't play favorites.
You got to go back a few years to remember this, because you don't talk to service advisors very much anymore. I'm sure it happens occasionally, but you go back to your adjuster days. Do you remember hearing that service advisor voice and going, yep, this one understands those things you were just talking about?
Oh, yeah. Like, so when you're back as an adjuster, you're doing, 40, 50 claims a day, right? I mean, you're going to talk to the same people over and over and over again. It's bound to happen. And early on in my career, before we had a different setup that we had today, we would handle just certain dealers, right? And so I'm talking to the same people all the time, and you definitely.
So you knew the angels and the assholes when the phone rang.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We were 15 seconds in. That was good.
Yeah, it's
breaking the seal on this.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's you totally get to know who they are, and and you'll flex your style depending on who it is. You got the people that do it right. I mean, there was people that would call in. I didn't even have to answer a question. They would just start talking, and I would just be typing in and do the entire claim without asking one question. And then you got the people that you literally have to get in there with the jaws of life and pry the information out of them. It's interesting. And it's the same people that are calling in dozen times a day. And but yeah, so you adapt, and you flex your style. So
that's awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit, and we're not shifting gears at all. We're just going to get deeper into the story here. So 29 years in one house. We're going to talk about the craft. We're going to talk about your climb, and we're going to talk about why you would never leave CNA. So you walked in the door in February of 97 as a claims adjuster, correct?
Yes.
It's about time I got into the car business.
February 3rd. I remember it. It was 4 days after my 21st birthday.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
Had a pack of diapers sitting on my desk because I was the youngest adjuster at the time, and
you were the baby.
Nice.
And, I knew then that was going to be a good place for me.
Does that still happen?
No, I probably not. But yeah.
Oh man, that's
like
great.
getting the tie cut in your first sale in the car business. Yeah.
Diaper. I never heard of that one. That's a good one.
Take us back. Take us back to 97 when you started. What did that job look like, and contrast that versus how you train and transfer your knowledge into this new generation of adjusters?
Sure. So back then it was quite a bit different. To give you an idea, we only had, I think I was the 26th claims adjuster when I started. We've got over 115 on the team now.
How many copies of Mitchell?
Wow.
And oh God, I can't even name
we had
it.
the hard
the hard
labor
copies.
guides, the big manuals.
Did you use fish, or you didn't have?
So we use Mitchell Motors.
But you have a microfiche, or do you have a hard book, or
hard books.
let me go find that page.
Just a step above carrier pigeon and chisel it out on a stone tablet. But it's like, yeah, it was definitely old school back then. But it was different. You know, the contracts were much simpler. There wasn't as much complicated coverages. There wasn't all the ancillary products and, you know,
Covered 3 items, right? The
gap
engine, the
and-
transmission.
I mean,
the
it was very basics. I mean, in a sense, I would say the job was a lot simpler back then. But the one thing I did pick up on early, and I was trained by a gentleman named Mark Reddy, who's still at CNA National as one of our claims supervisors. And I remember what he told me, and he goes, "You just want to, get all the details." I mean, so I think the basics haven't changed. You know, it's like,
Right.
just ask the right questions, look at the contract, look for a way to help the customer. If you can't, it should be very clear. You know, you should be able to explain the why very easily and point to the contract language, not the gotchas, in the contract. But I would say what's changed recently is more about the complicated coverages, and then, of course, the technology that we
Right.
have now to make the job more efficient for the adjusters. They have a lot more access to information. The internet has good and bad. Of course, we talked about the bad with the,
Right.
the negative reviews and things like that people can write, keyboard warriors. But there's a lot of good, too. You can get in there and get a lot of great information to help us be a lot more accurate and a lot more efficient and nimble in claims adjudication. So it's, as far as like people, like building up the people and the teams themselves, I wouldn't say that's changed all that much. It's really just focusing on developing the team, building the talent. Not everybody wants to be a leader, on the team. You got the folks that they want to be adjusters, they don't want to be anymore, and we need lots of those, right? Not everybody can be a leader, on the team, and so it's identifying those that, and putting them in positions where they can be highly successful. Because like even on the claims team, you have multiple roles on the team. Not everybody's adjudicating claims. You could have people handling inspections. You could have people doing gap stuff. You could have whatever, and over time you start to identify where their strengths and weaknesses are at, and you put them in the position where they can be the most successful for the organization and for themselves.
Sounds like back to blocking and tackling. I mean,
It does seem. I've said this, I think, on previous podcasts too, and this is something that the great Wes Rydell said to me many years ago now too. That the same theory, Mike, to your point, that you cannot move up until you find your replacement.
Yep.
But the greatest thing that you're touching on, we'll peel that back as we work through a lot of these questions and have this conversation today, is that culture is created by the leadership and how it's put as boots on the ground, which is what you're exemplifying, to be quite honest, but you're also imparting on that next generation of your supervisors.
Yep.
That part that you just discussed, to Steve's point, blocking and tackling, is the most salient throughout. I mean, that is, by definition, who you are as a leader, finding the right seats on the bus.
Yeah, it starts at the top, so I mean, starts with my leader, with transparency and honesty, and integrity there, wanting to help me grow, challenging me, putting me in positions where I might be a little bit uncomfortable.
Like sitting on a podcast with a couple of car geeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make me uncomfortable. though. But no, it's just, like challenging and learning every day. That was the one thing I've, like I keep trying to tell my team, like you should be learning every day.
Right.
You should be, I can say without fail, I learn and I see something new every day, even after 29 years. It's unbelievable, and it's only because I'm looking for it too. I'm looking for things that are new and interesting and whatnot. And I try to instill that on my leadership team that reports up through me too, and let them know that they should be learning every day, looking for ways to improve. And then most importantly, supporting the people underneath them. I mean, it's a cascading effect on down the chain, to elevate people, challenge them, help them grow. Not everybody wants to,
Right.
and so there's some of that as well. But for those that are hungry for it, what can we do to support that?
It does become a matter of self-selection to some extent, right?
It is, yeah.
They have to want it, or they have to just, for lack of a better term, be content with where they're at.
True. Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you said, we need as many of those individuals as we can possibly take as well. Most people in this business, you touch on this, but this is very true for automotive on the whole, unfortunately. But most people in this business do job hop every couple years, every 3 years. You stayed and have stayed for 29 so far, right? We're knee deep into 20. Why? And I know you touched on this earlier. What did CNA see in you, and what did you see in CNA that made staying the right call? Because as you said, we're not going to dig deep into any offers you've had in the past, but you know, someone of your skill level is obviously a hot commodity.
Yeah, the why I stay, I think, is pretty easy. I love the organization. I love what we stand for. I like how we take care of our customers. We do it right. I know that's a broad term.
It's a pride term too.
But what I mean by that is we're honest, we're transparent, we have integrity. We don't look for ways to, you know, quote unquote, screw somebody out of something. It's not what we do. But on the flip side too, I've always been highly supported as an individual there for my growth and my, you know, and what I want to do. I've always been one that's raised my hand though. I've always been one that said I want to do this and I want to do more. And honestly, it wasn't about the money. It was more about being challenged and doing something different. And then there's always part of me that you know, and it's just the competitive side of me. I think I could do that better. I see an opportunity and I think I could do that better. Right. And what I do now is I really, it's kind of a transition for me now that I'm not an individual contributor anymore. I'm more of a broad, you know, and then my leadership style has changed. I was very tactical for a long time as a manager and as a supervisor, which means you're doing the blocking and tackling every day. You know, you're looking for the little fires, you're trying to put those out, you're helping the team members. And then as you move up into a more of a higher level leadership role there, you got to have that mindset shift to be more strategic, thinking more broadly for the organization, but even more broadly for your team, the future, you know, planning for the team, the succession planning, who's going to be where. And I'm not talking just in claims. Like when I look at my the team that's underneath me, which also includes operations and sales support now, I'm thinking about what else could they do within the organization to help the organization, not just help claims or help operations. You know, it's like there's opportunities for those folks to even expand out beyond that, potentially, right, if they want to and whatnot. And we're highly supportive of developing folks there and developing the talent. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for the next few years because we've got some really great folks on the team, and there's a lot of potential there for them to grow and do more, and it's going to be a fun few years coming up. So
You saying this makes me really want to ask hard questions that every dealer should want to hear this from you. I look at your adjusters. I know all of the other admin people, and there are other claims, important people. But to me, the adjusters are the advisors and the technicians of the dealer world.
yes,
Okay?
absolutely.
Your turnover rate is what?
I don't know it off the top of my head now. It's
Single digit?
No, I think it's slightly above 10%.
Okay.
Currently, right now.
And what dealer would kill for that?
Yeah, it's
Right.
I mean, it's low for the industry.
So,
right?
so you're talking to every dealer out there today. What does it take? What do they need to do to have the same level of retention that you do? Because that's huge.
Let me add something onto that. 'Cause
Sure.
I'm going to add some fire to this.
Yeah.
And you can prepare your answer accordingly because it's the same line.
Okay.
There is something plaguing dealers nationally, and it has to do with service advisor turnover. Service advisors somewhat translate into the adjuster role. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a similar individual. What's plaguing the automotive industry, and then answer Steve's question because I want to hear this. The turnover seems to be happening at year 3, which for all intents and purposes in automotive, year 3 for a service advisor is the year he or she starts making good money, starts realizing the fruits of their labor.
Yeah, when
they get loyalty,
build the customer,
but
Yep.
Exactly. It's not glamorous as far as pay goes. They get hammered from customers, from the GM.
Thankless job in the dealership. The most thankless job in the world.
It is. They get hammered from parts.
It's one of the hardest too. It's
It's impossible.
Yep.
Everybody's so happy to come see them.
They get hammered by technicians. They get hammered by the parts department. They get hammered by everybody. I don't think I included sales there. I might have
Yeah,
said.
you forgot the customer. The customer comes in there not happy because something's wrong
Correct.
with their car.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Absolutely correct. what has transitioned and made this even more traumatic for dealers nationally is that the advisor is the dealer's customer loyalty piece.
Yep.
It's not the salesperson anymore. It was finance for a little bit. It's not finance anymore. It is that service advisor, the person they come and see every 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
So again, to that end, when you speak to how do you do it to best fit our audience, in this case is dealers and car folk and
Yeah. Now, I do have a couple friends that still write service in the industry, and to your point, they do hop around, and it is every few years. What I've heard from them, of course, and of course it's been a long time since I've done it, but constantly changing their pay plans all the time. And it's never to benefit them. I will tell you that. It's always to benefit the dealer. And trust me, I'm not against the dealer doing what they need to do to maximize their profits, right? That's not what I'm saying here. But my point is, people like to know and understand what they're up against and what the challenges are. So they get these ever-changing pay plans, and then the goalposts are constantly changing of what they need to meet as far as like average ROs or upsells or whatever the case may be. And we all know right now, fixed ops is the biggest profit center right now. It seems to be. You read about it. You got these
as a percentage basis.
Profit margins are just insane on the fixed ops side. So they're trying to maximize that as much as possible, and they do that by pushing the service advisors, into areas that are probably uncomfortable for them. To the point where it's like, I remember when I wrote service, there was a gentleman that was just crushing it on our side, and to be honest with it, he wasn't doing it right. It was borderline. Well, I'll just be honest with you, it was unethical what he was doing in order to meet those standards. And I think that there is most service advisors. You get the prima donnas here and there, but for the most part, these are good people that are, they're trying to do the right thing. They have ethics and morals too, and I think sometimes they get tested on that, whether it's, pay plan changes, unreasonable expectations, and the goalposts constantly changing.
And you're not questioning the dealer's motives behind it, because,
no.
I get accused all the time, and I've said many things on this podcast, that I'll defend the dealers from the purpose of their expense structure.
Yeah,
it's becoming more and more challenging for them to turn the lights on.
That's a great
point. It's expensive.
Yes.
So things have to change.
They got to do what they got to do,
Any business owner would do.
Right.
Make adjustments. But that's the challenge. That's the mind mess up, if you will, for those advisors of why they end up leaving.
Yeah, they end up leaving just because everything's changing. Nothing's consistent, And I know a good friend of mine, like I said, he's jumped around probably to 3 dealers in the last 5 years, and it's been because of that.
it's funny when they dangle that carrot, it feels oftentimes more like a stick, and it does force you into those gray areas for sure.
Oh, it's absolutely the stick. And then you get the the OEM customer service satisfaction bonuses and
right.
things like that that are just nearly impossible to hit.
Who replies to those?
Well,
not anybody. Not enough people that are happy.
Yep.
It's the 70-30 rule of the internet. 70% want to be. We've talked about this earlier today. Want to be keyboard warriors, and because they're just angry about something and they want to talk mean and talk bad. And 30% will say, "Oh, I had a great experience." Whatever. If it's a restaurant review,
Yep.
And it'd be great if we could get 100% response on the reviews,
Yep.
but we're not. And so I think, the same thing happens here. It's unfortunately we hear mostly negativity and not enough about the great opportunities and the great places to be. Thus we have you here today, which is one of those great places to be. But since he hijacked my question, I'm coming back to it. What do you do to keep those people happy and retain them the way you do?
For me, on my side, I don't know if I can necessarily speak for the dealer because it is a different role, right?
Okay.
But on my side, it's empowering the team, making sure that they feel like we're there to support their growth and their journey and what they want to do within the organization. That's one of the key pieces. Being available to them, talking with them, meeting with them regularly. We have it. It's actually built into the process on our side. The supervisors are meeting, a couple times a week, with their team members, either organically or through set up, standardized touch points, when we have our one-on-ones. So I have, personally, I have weekly one-on-ones with my team. Now, of course, they're popping in all the time to chat, but we have a very structured approach on our one-on-ones where, they send an agenda and I know what I'm going to talk about. They're supporting information.
Do you think dealers do stuff like this with their advisors?
They do not.
And what do you think the response, the result would be if they did?
It would probably help. I think it's a little different too. A service advisor, it's like, what's your aspirations? What are you going to do beyond that? Are you going to be the service director? Maybe. There's only one there at that store. I think so. I think it's a little bit apples and oranges, a little bit. But
don't you think that communication and with employees,
Career path.
It's not always that. I think it's literally just support. It's personal support. We keep talking about relationships in so many of these podcasts. I think you build that relationship with the people that you work with.
Know your team.
And the team doesn't want to leave.
Yep.
That's it.
Like even for me, I mean, I will purposefully, when somebody does something really well, we get a kudos or whatever, I will personally reach out to one of the adjusters to have a conversation with them. And it's not an email. Now the claims team is mostly remote, for the CNA group. So I'll reach out to them and set up a video call and have a quick 5-minute chat. I mean, it doesn't take any time.
Right.
To reach out, have a person. And it's funny because you can visually tell. First, they're a little nervous because I'm reaching out. Normally I don't, necessarily talk with them directly too often.
There's layers oftentimes.
But when you do, it makes an impact, and
you care.
They know that you care, and they know that you noticed.
It's the old saying,
And you
people don't care what you
recognized it
know, they want to know that you care.
Know that you care. That's 100% right.
I think people, they get so caught up in their I'm busy that they miss these great opportunities that only take 5-10 minutes.
To make a fellow employee and or
human.
To make their world round, right? I mean, that is the whole point. To
Well,
show
they're
them that you care.
They're not a number on a spreadsheet at that point.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? I think you said it. They're human. They're real people. Yep.
You went from adjuster, supervisor, senior manager, VP, all in the same building. What's the one thing that you learned in each seat that the next seat couldn't have taught you?
Gonna give a piece of paper and a pencil for this? How many different positions?
Oh,
So as an adjuster, what
Supervisor.
prepared me for a supervisor role?
what's one thing that next seat couldn't have taught you before you took the role?
Couldn't have taught me before I took the role.
And we're not asking you to admonish the leadership whose role you took necessarily, but what's one thing they couldn't have taught you that you had to learn by taking the role?
Honestly, it's getting to see. I mean, obviously, trial by fire. You hear that a lot of times, right? And you get in there. What I didn't learn or had to learn right away was when you're a leader, you're not just helping people learn how to do their job. I mean, you are the psychologist. You're the financial planner. You're everything to them, right? They come to you not just for work problems,
right,
for everything, right? And that was one of the things that I didn't know, early on. And to be honest with you, that only grows as the higher up you get up. The problems become bigger. Getting into the manager level was more of a move from just day-to-day operational to how does the claims team impact the rest of the organization, right? And that was something that I didn't know until I got into those roles, right? And then now in my current spot, being over 3 very large groups, so 150-ish people, up in those 3 groups, is not only do we impact the organization, but we can touch all of you as well. And understanding what that means. Coming out here, doing this, visiting with you, doing a training session with Conley Group today was amazing. Like, I love that. And it's the people connection. It's the relationship building. It's that trust. It's the transparency. I think that was displayed today. All those things that I wouldn't have known about until I got into these roles. They couldn't have taught me before, and like when I really think about it, sorry, a little deep question there, but it is amazing. I feel, like I said, it's that learning every day. Like I learned today, just being at the office and listening to you guys talk about the business and what's going on and challenges that you face, which I don't know. I mean, it seems like every day there's a new challenge. Right?
Well, you and I have been through some particular things, won't get into any details, but somebody's idea is really great until it's implemented. On paper, it looks phenomenal. You implement it and you go, ooh, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. But is it a military saying, you're the military guy, not me, quick to fail?
Yeah.
I mean, so you go, okay, wrong idea, make the adjustment or scrap it or whatever, but we're moving forward.
It's so funny you say that because we talk about that all the time. I am not afraid to try things at the office.
Amen.
And I'm not afraid of failure. I will tell you that I have learned more from my failures than I've ever learned through not.
Right.
And so that was a learning that I think I didn't know as an adjuster, maybe even as a supervisor, as I became a larger leader, that failure is not bad. You should embrace it. You learn the most from that. And so it's funny you said that. It looks great on paper, but in practice, it didn't pan out the way you thought, right?
How many training opportunities have we had together?
Yes.
Because somebody really just, oof.
On paper, looked great.
Well, might have said something.
Yep.
Oof.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a training opportunity.
But we will try stuff, but we're quick to, we always have our rollback plans ready just in case, because we know sometimes things don't work out as you think they would. So preparation for that and knowing that could happen is there. But I will tell you, the best wins we've got is the learnings from those failures. And you make some tweaks, some changes, you do that, and then you can have something really great after that.
That's phenomenal. Well said. Which promotion was actually the hardest? Not the most rewarding, but the most difficult.
I would say probably my current one.
Well, you're
now.
3 months in, 2 months in?
Yeah, so we're in a couple months, and mostly because I just feel very passionate about there's some opportunities on these teams. I have to temper my sense of urgency and how fast I want to work, right? So like Steve, you and I have worked
Patience?
together a
What's
long
that?
times. I have very little patience. And
Guilty.
And so I tend to push things a little faster than what I hoped, would happen. Sometimes, my leader has to tell me to pump the brakes a little bit sometimes. And I'd rather be in that spot. I'd rather be told to slow down than have somebody push me. And I'm like that with my team as well. I don't want to have to push somebody. I'd rather have to tell them to slow down, a little bit. But yeah, that's probably the most challenging piece there for me is the most recent promotion and just looking at the opportunities. Because I don't see I don't see problems per se. I just see opportunities to be better, and I see a lot of them. And so now I just have to put on the strategy hat, right, and prioritize those. Which is
versus
the biggest?
The tactical, right?
That's right. Where's the biggest bang for the buck, and where should I spend the bulk of my time right now? And then move that forward. But the key win that I've had so far is I have been able to step away from the claims team a little more than I would like to be, just because I'm comfortable with it, right? Because that's what I did for so long. But I've got a great management team under there, so I can be here to do this, step away, and I don't even worry about it.
That's awesome.
I don't at all. So
that's awesome. Definition of leadership there. When Joe Becker named you VP in 2017, he called you the most obvious choice. Pointed to your leadership, judgment, and passion for the work. That is a direct quote. What did obvious actually mean to him, in your opinion? And what did it feel like to be called out publicly?
It was a great feeling. I think anybody in any role, it's always really great to be recognized when you put in a lot of hard work, right? And I've always showed up every day, try to do my best, bring the best version of me every day, whether it's, and I'll just be candid with you. I'm not successful every day at it, right? I mean, there's days I walk in the elevator and I'm not 100%, whether it's personal things going on or whatever, but I really make a choice when I walk off that elevator every day of what am I going to bring to the table today, right? And you have to, and I think I've gotten a lot better at that, especially in elevated roles. But going back to why does he say I'm the obvious choice? I would love to say that it was really obvious to me that I was the obvious choice, but I for me, I know it's what I bring to the table. I have a high sense of urgency to our clients' needs. Steve, you know this very well.
Your people know that, though. That's one of those things. They know what's expected.
Yep. I mean, I know it's unheard of for some agents to even have my personal cell phone number if there's a problem. Now, luckily, they don't abuse it, but I care about the customer experience. I care about our clients' experience with us, because it only takes one bad interaction to unwind that whole thing.
That's a fact.
And I've been out on new dealer installs and whatnot, and the first time I got to come out and do a new dealer install, and I was out helping in the service drive, I really left with this feeling of like, I don't want the claims team to be the reason why we lose business. I remember you and I talking about this. It was like, damned if that's going to happen under my watch, right? Like I'm not going to be the reason why we're not growing, or we're going to lose business. And so I take a lot of pride in that. I also take a lot of pride in that relationship that I have with a lot of our clients and agents and whatnot. I'm very very proud of, and look to continue to grow those as much as possible.
Love that. You've named Don Oliver as your biggest mentor, someone who taught you to look at things from different angles and step outside your comfort zone. Who is Don? And what is the one lesson you can attribute to Don Oliver that you still carry today?
You should probably say Don Oliver, Poet Laureate.
Poet Laureate?
I hope he catches this.
Yeah, so Don was a
Just
leader of claims when I started, and was a good guy and was really good with people. Understood the agent relationship. I think he was probably the primary reason why I started to develop the relationships with our clients. He definitely understood the importance of the people side and building relationships, not only, like I said, with our clients, but with the office folks, helping develop. He retired some time ago, on there, and I kind of stepped into that shoes. He helped me. One of the things that I was terrified of when I first became a manager was public speaking, right? And we had to come out to sales conference and give a speech, and in front of a couple hundred people, and I was freaking out about it. I mean, I was really nervous about it, and he was inspiring in the sense that he was very comfortable with that. He just had an ease in front of people and was able to talk, was very candid and eloquent, I guess you could say.
Folksy, aw shucks.
Kind of, yeah.
But he was the Poet Laureate, remember?
He was, right. He would actually do a poem.
That's
he
what I
would
was
do it
referring
every
to.
year, and
A new one.
Yeah, I didn't do that, of course. But he helped, drive some of that energy that I had early on in my career. And then, of course, after that, I've had some really great leaders that I've had the honor of reporting up under now, who have really propelled my career, since then. So, Don, I think, really helped drive my people side, whereas, my current leader, Johan, has helped drive he's really elevated my business sense and my game on being a strategic thinking leader, and to help me, so those two combined, I think have really helped me be who I am today. So I would credit both those gentlemen with that.
We get on here, we discuss oftentimes, or I think Steve has too, on previous podcasts, where I'm at a stage in my career where I think more about legacy than I probably do anything else. Certainly ahead of paycheck, certainly ahead of project, certainly ahead of anything that would be somewhat tangible. I kind of know the answer to this, but I want you to expand upon it. Do you see yourself as a mentor for that next generation, to be able to impart a lot of that of who you are? So the next podcast guest in 5 to 10 years from now would suggest the same thing and probably give you your rose as well.
I'll just hijack that answer. Yes.
Right?
I would love for that to be like I would love my legacy to be that I help people grow on the team, support them, help them, reach their goals and their dreams, professionally as well. I look at my kids. I have 4 kids, right? Ranging from, almost 26 to 7, right? And of course, the older kids, it's funny. You think when they become adults that they require less effort. It's actually the opposite. It's way more, right? And I'm actually proud to say that, my oldest daughter actually works with us, at CNA.
Very cool.
She's on our reinsurance team, and she definitely listens to Dad on career advice. She does not listen to Dad on personal advice, but that's okay. Not surprising there, but my oldest
Let's
son,
stick to the business stuff, Dad.
yeah, and my oldest son, same thing. I try to instill those, just that mindset,
Right.
and never give up. Work hard, try hard. I don't know what it is about this young generation. Is to get rich quick. They want to be right to the top right away. And I keep trying to tell them, like, I go, the keys to success are, staying the course, working hard, do your best. Like my son, it took him a year to get the job that he was in, and he almost gave up a couple times. It took him an entire year, and he was constantly applying and interviewing. And I just told him, I go, if you really want it, don't give up. And he's like, well, I feel like I'm bugging him, and I'm like, nope, just keep at it, and I see that even on my team. I was similar to like that even in my current roles that I'm thinking back about it. I was persistent that I wanted to do more, and spoke up. That was the one thing. Don't be the mushroom,
That was an allusion to the left in the dark and fed shit. So I could say that cuss word. We're 15 seconds in, Steve. I think we can. Yeah. We're monetized now. We're not that big of a podcast yet. So that brings up a great point too about this generation that, this generation. I'll just leave it as a blanket statement. I think what they miss out, and I think what you're alluding to too, is the fact that the journey is the reward. Like the journey was the fun part.
Yes.
Getting the position, getting the income, getting the things, it really doesn't mean anything. And I think what we draw back on, at least I'll speak for myself, what I draw back on was the journey. It wasn't GM, it wasn't executive manager within a car dealership, it wasn't any of the promotions. It was the journey to get there. That was the fun part. That's the part that I draw upon. It has zero to do with anything else, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And that generation is lost, or that's lost on this generation.
To some degree, it is. It's kind of a shame. Really,
it is. It is.
Pendulum swings. Hopefully, it swings back.
Hopefully, hopefully it's not a rubber band. So with that being said, we got similar. Again, to the point, Steve's got similar age, older kids, but you and I share that. I've got a police officer son who's maybe a grandfather 3 times. My daughter is going to chiropractic school here in St. Louis. But I've also got 10-year-old twins, about to be 10-year-old twins. So we do share that.
Yeah, congratulations.
So we're going to have to start sharing a text stream or a group text between us.
Yes.
Suffering fathers with that generational disconnect. I shouldn't say suffering. So let's go away from the 29 years at one organization. Let's talk about the claims desk specifically.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about basically what dealers and customers don't really see or don't understand for that matter. For the customer or dealer who has only ever seen the front end of that F&I product, the menu, the price, the signature, walk us through what actually happens the second that claim hits your team. What does that real journey look like?
Yeah, it's actually relatively simple, right? So the adjusters, their job is to adjudicate the claim within the 4 corners of the contract, and so they have access to it. So the first thing they're doing is they're, validating, the basic stuff. Is it most of these contracts, outside of a lifetime program are, term and mileage, right? So, make sure it fits there. And it's really pretty standard. Who are we talking to? What's wrong with the vehicle? What's it going to take to fix it? How much it's going to cost, right? And that's really what it comes down to, and does it fit the terms of the contract? What we're not doing is going through it with a fine-tooth comb of how do we get out of this claim, right? I think, we talked about that earlier, right? And, so what we're trying to do is, does it fit the contract? And if it doesn't, it needs to be very clear, right? To the consumer. We should be able to have a very simple conversation with a consumer because they will call in, after, if there is a claim denial, and they'll ask why. And it should be very simple for us to go through and say, here's why. And if you're not able to describe very easily why we're not covering something, then I'm questioning why we didn't buy the claim. That's really kind of the philosophy that we have there.
That is a really cool perspective because I think, again, we talked about that dirty word when describing comprehensive protection, right?
Yep.
We talked about the bumper-to-bumper misconception, and I think that answers our next question, so we'll spend a little more time on this one. But I think that's a very unique way in your industry, the administrator industry, or that side of the table, to look at it as not so much on what not to, but how to convey that to the customer. If it's not simple, again, this is something I preach in dealership. If it's not easy, it's impossible. So if you can't convey that message, and if your adjusters can't convey that message to the advisor and then ultimately the customer, obviously, then really it should face that mirror back upon you guys as to why that claim wasn't bought. I think that's a very unique way to look at it.
Yeah, and it's something that has to be trained. I mean, clearly, when we get new adjusters that are brought on the team, especially with those that come from other providers.
You just read my mind. I was
Okay.
about to ask you, so how does that look when you hire somebody that came from another admin,
Yes,
doesn't have your mentality? Does it just stick out like crazy?
it does. And you can tell very quickly that there's different processes at these other places. Now, I would say there are some really great ones,
Right.
out there as well, right? So I'm not going to take away from that, but there are some that, of course you hear about, and we won't name names, but
We'll protect the innocent. Yeah.
where they come in and they just have this philosophy of, I'm here to crush every single claim that comes in, right? And that's not the philosophy. Like I said, we want to adjudicate at the four corners of the contract. We should be able to easily describe if there's a claim denial, why. And if we, because our philosophy is, if there's gray area or there's benefit of the doubt, tie goes to the runner, it goes to the customer.
That's awesome.
Okay. I mean, that is something that we teach, and train on when we bring anybody on board. So again, hiring from other competitors, adjusters, you would think it'd be great because it'd be a shorter learning curve, right?
I assume that's
In
you
some
could
cases-
have a bad reference on your resume or a good one.
Yeah, in some
based on
cases
that.
not, right? In some cases it can be a challenge for us too, but we're very quick to address those situations, So we very keen on monitoring quality assurance audits, listening to phone calls. I mean, we do spend an incredible amount of time doing that to make sure that things are being handled the way that they need to be.
Kind of an offshoot of this. Okay, there's a cut and dry, not covered. Can you explain why you have to deny a claim because it's black and white, not covered? There are consequences and auditing behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, trust me, I'm sure most people have no clue of that. I know enough to be dangerous. Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah. So, firstly, in my new role, the good news is I don't get to deal with the auditors as much as I used to. The previous role, I'll be passing that down to one of the managers.
And we're not
here
just
that would
talking
take it out.
internal auditors.
No, we do. So a couple times a year, we get audited by an external firm as well as our parent organization, CNA Financial in Chicago, and it can be random, and what they look at, could be the types of claims. It's a random sampling. We look at the adjudication process, the consistency there. We also look at the payment process, and it's quite extensive. So, and yes, we do get questioned.
And the repercussions are?
Well, additional controls. There could be, a litany of things, but the first and foremost is just making sure that you're being very consistent in
No
the way,
biases.
in the way, that you process claims regardless of what the situation is, So the goal there is to make sure that we apply consistency to the process. If and when there's a discrepancy in the process, then what happens is you get to build a different process to make sure that that's happening the way it is. So I actually, for many, many years prior to taking this role, was in charge of the claims audit, and handling and doing all the conversations with the auditors. And
We're talking root canal or proctological exam here?
I would say at first it was painful, but what happens is you build relationships with those folks too, and you build trust and rapport. And what I'm not a fan of, and Steve, you know this, I'm not a fan of texting and emailing. I would rather pick up the phone and call. And that's how I also dealt with the auditors as well. It's easier to get on Teams, share your screen, walk them through the process. A lot of times it's just a misunderstanding on what's going on, and you just got to walk them through. But to your point, Steve, yes, we have other people we have to answer to. So it's not just, Because I'll get those questions like, can you just take care of this for me? I just want this to go away or whatever. And it's like, it's not that easy.
Department of Insurance? 50 of them?
Attorney General, Department of Insurance could be, and then you got the non-regulatory stuff like BBB and stuff like that, which we are highly responsive to. And
So that's the scrutiny people don't understand.
yeah, it can happen. And a Department of Insurance, I mean, even though most of these are not insurance products, we're still
It's file.
We're still held to those standards, right? And they're looking for consistency, right? Are you treating all your customers the same based on what the contract says it'll do?
Yeah, but you still have to contribute to the GIF for the general insurance funds. In the event of insolvency, every insurance company has to pay that.
Sure.
That's part of your filing. So
Yep.
all those things are scrutinized so they don't have to be used.
Yep.
And I don't think most dealership personnel understand that.
Yeah, I'll get that all the time where, I'll get a, even once in a while, customer will make it up to my level, right? And when we're talking to a customer, I will walk them through that part because they think just because I have a title, that means I can just make it happen.
Right.
And
You can be the wizard and
yeah,
Pull the
and it's
lever.
like, and I always tell them like, look, I am going to start at the very beginning of this claim and look at it as if it's fresh to me and look at it. And if there's something I can hang my hat on, I like to use that term, right? Even if it's small, I'll do something, right? But if I can't, then I'm going to explain to you why. And then that's it, but then I've had to have those conversations like, look, I can't do it. I get audited. These things have an uncanny ability to come up in a random, selection. I've had it happen before, where it's like, cannot believe that one popped up, but documentation is key as to why you do stuff. And so we just make sure it's documented correctly and we'll do what needs to be done. Yep.
Well, whether you know it or not, you answered the 2 questions back to back there that I can't.
sorry.
No, that's perfect. That I can simply check off. But one thing I want to kind of unpack that a little bit. So, again, the communication side of things, the consistency, the compliance. How does CNA's partners, how do we convey that message to a dealer? To suggest to a dealer that, hey, this is the gold standard. How do you deliver that message? You don't do marketing. You're not direct to dealers. You're not direct to consumer necessarily.
Don't do consumer marketing.
Consumer marketing, correct.
Yeah, I think we probably rely a lot on our agents, right?
Right.
To convey that. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the agents have the information necessary so that they can convey it, for us. Because to your point, we're not out agent or dealer facing per se, right? We work through
Consumer and facing. Your business to business.
Yes. And, but I think doing things like this is helpful, right?
That's our goal. That's kind of
think,
is getting real information out there that hopefully people realize we're.
I mean, this is
real
real, guys, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is really a lot of fun and it's interesting, and we probably need more of this, and then coming out and meeting with your team like we did today, and having those conversations and being very transparent up front of how do we do stuff, kind of getting behind the curtain, behind the scenes. I think that a lot of organizations don't do enough of that. It's refreshing right now on our side to have a leader that supports that. So that's like I said, I'm very excited for the next few years coming up because it's just going to be a very different approach, I think, from what we've been used to.
Well, I think we're all excited for that. Next question. You hold a master ASE certification, automotive and diesel designation degree from UTI.
Yeah, I could get you a job tomorrow.
Yeah, you are sought after, brother. How often does your technician brain override your admin brain?
It used to a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Especially when I was an adjuster, right?
I know how this works.
Yeah, because we battle that today when we bring on people that haven't been a claims adjuster before, that maybe have technician and service advisor experience. They always want to diagnose the vehicle when the claim is called in, and that's not their job. Their job is to ask questions based on their knowledge, but not to diagnose the vehicle. And so I would say that hasn't been a problem in a long time, for me, because I've been in the management role for quite some time. I don't adjudicate claims anymore, but it used to be a problem.
That means I got to stop saying on the phone, okay, I'm not a mechanic. There's something other end going, yeah, we know.
How
Yeah.
often do you recognize it from your adjusters or leadership when their brain is in the different mode than it should be?
So you can tell. So and I would say it's usually on newer team members that are brought on. It's usually not the seasoned folks because they've gone through those growing pains already, But you can recognize it pretty easy, and it usually causes a call escalation. It usually, we'll get a call from Steve. Steve's like, "What are we doing here?" And we'll get in and look at the claim. Is like, we're digging for something here and we don't know what it is, right? And a lot of times it's because and I like to call it, you're getting in your own way, right?
Right.
At this point, it's, what are you looking for? And, is there a way that you can just frame that question differently to get the answer you need or whatever the case may be? But it happens, I wouldn't say it happens a lot, but it happens enough where I do notice it, and it's usually on new hires, and you just got to get them in the lane of like, take the technician hat off, put the adjuster hat on. You can use the technician experience to help guide your questioning, but at the end of the day, if you're not believing what they want to say, or you're suspicious of it, then you may need to inspect at that point, right?
Right.
But then you have to watch those, because then you get the people that they want to inspect everything because they don't trust you, and so there's that balancing act, and that is where the training and coaching and mentoring comes in.
I'm Andy Rooney when I call him. You ever wonder?
You have a one.
Yeah.
What is one type of claim that almost always goes sideways unless somebody on your team intercepts it and approaches it the right way?
Ooh, I have a word in my head. Let's see.
Just a word?
Sideways.
The type of claim?
Yeah. What's one type of claim that almost always goes sideways?
I don't know if I couldn't hang on always, but most
I
frequent.
got a bet too, but I'm not
always one is tough.
Most frequently? Can we change that with most frequently?
Let's replace the language.
For me, the ones that I see is usually wiring related.
Ding ding.
Yeah.
So it's
I promise that's
usually
what I was
wiring
thinking.
harness. It's the discrepancy between can you repair it versus replace. The labor time necessary.
Diag. I was waiting for that.
Broken down into several segments. So you got the diagnosis time, which is, and I did drivability diagnosis. It takes a long time. And then the manufacturers have these big diagnosis trees you have to go through that sometimes can suck up a lot of labor. And then it's gaining access to the wiring harness. So especially if it's running underneath the dash, up through the headliner, whatever the case may be. And then you got a body shop manual out. You're trying to figure out all the labor time. Those are the ones that usually get a little kinky.
So because you asked that question, I have to tell the story. I was very new in the agent side of the business, working with CNA, and went out to a small independent dealer that I knew and did business with. He sold a lot of used cars. He was a very big wholesaler, so he had the ability to retail a lot as well. And he had a very small service department, and I walked in, and this one was the new service manager. I introduced myself, told her where I was from, but everybody kind of always says, and they may do it with you, "Oh, you work for CNA." No, I work for Conley Insurance Group, but yeah, I represent CNA. Well, they suck. Okay, I knew where she had come from, and I knew the company that she'd worked with in the past, maybe a company I worked for in the beginning of my career, maybe not. And I said, well, tell me what the problem is. Well, I have this job, and they won't pay me the labor time. I said, okay, can you be more descriptive? Well, it's a dome light, and I have 16 hours of diag in it. I've always wished I saved this RO, but I didn't. I'm like thinking to myself, how stupid are you that it took you 16 hours to figure this out? But I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. And you'll appreciate this. I hope this is documented and Philip can clip it. This is how a service advisor should do this. I said, look, there's somebody on the other end of that phone looking at a black and white screen. Maybe it's a green screen, blue screen, whatever. And if you said dome light problem, 16 hours DAG, that doesn't make sense. You need to paint a picture and put them in it. So the customer came in and said, this was what's going wrong. This is my problem. So by elimination, by a technological guide, we check this. That didn't do it, so we go here, and you take them down the path of what it took to get there.
It's the justification of the time.
And she of course answered me gruffly and said it was all bullshit. I went, okay, I'm just offering advice. I left. I was back there. I remember being there on a Thursday the following week. She couldn't have been nicer to me. She was so happy. I said, so how'd your claim go? She goes, that was amazing. Oh my God. I did what you told me. What do you know? They approved all 16 hours of labor. And I'm thinking, what idiot approved it? But no, but really, that's the path.
But they can justify it. Yeah.
You have to, details and painting the picture and telling the story. And I equate it to where again, not a technician, not a seasoned service advisor, nothing but due respect. I came from what I think is second or third toughest job in the dealership as an F&I director, because everybody expected you to deliver every deal, and that was just no ifs, ands, or buts. What made me successful at it, good is not the question, it's just successful. I could tell the story. I could explain the big picture of everything that's going on. It gave me success in putting a lot of people in a lot of cars. I think a service advisor, there's no different. The problem is, I don't think they don't like to be called salespeople. I get it. I respect that. But they are, and they see more customers than anybody, and they have a bigger impact on customers than
100%.
anybody. And the
As we
ones
discussed,
that embrace that find that success.
Yeah, you get the ones that they want to hit the easy button, right? It needs a wiring harness. Well, how much time? You need 32 hours. You know, and you look up the labor time, and it pays like 9, right? You know, and you're like, I need your help here, guy. You know, like, I mean, help me help you.
And they're going to save you a lot of time if they
Yeah,
walk into the conversation with the mentality,
Yeah.
I'm going to explain the steps
Yep.
each time. I try to convey that. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose, with dealers that call me every day and say, can you help me with this?
Yep.
Just send me an email, and I'll tell a story about our first dealer guest, Megan Sinclair Rosso. She once called me about something. I said, send me an email. And she sent me the most amazing email. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I picked up the phone and I called her. I said, Megan, this is exactly what I wished every service advisor sent me. Thank you so much. I couldn't ask you more. And she giggles and she goes, yeah, I use ChatGPT. I'm like, you outed yourself. But by the same token, it was a lesson that I have tried to begin to convey. Don't be afraid to use technology to tell the story.
Yep.
And by using, somebody said, oh, that takes too much time. Really? So if you spend 60 seconds, once you know how to use it, and I'm not a daily user, I don't use it much, but you take 60 seconds to put your ideas and the process in a logical order, and then you email it to a guy like you, that's a time saver, because you're going to go bang.
Yep.
Just like the advisor you talked about in the beginning, who you knew was calling you, knew what he was doing. You didn't have to say anything. You just walked you through it. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Then conversely, sometimes service advisors learn that the technicians are being just greedy, right? You know, and because they can't justify it, you know, and they go through really hard. You know, we have kind of a little saying, it's like, well, you know, the rest of it's training time. You know, it's like, you know, we don't cover training time. You know, we cover repair time. You know, and but at that point, the service advisor, he gets it. You know, he or she will get it. They'll be like, yeah, I got it. You know, no problem. We'll take it. You know, go from there. So.
As a kudos, before you came with us, Brian, and they used to put out a catalog every year, a yearbook that had all of their adjusters' pictures and names. And so we would hand them out in service departments, and service advisors, as soon as they got on the phone with somebody, they're thumbing through the book, they're looking, oh, that's who
awesome.
that is, putting a face with a name. It was awesome, but I'll tell you what, I don't know why you stopped doing it, but I'll tell you the negative side of it. They fell in love with that one advisor, and then they wanted to call that person.
That one adjuster, yeah.
And it's unfortunate they can't get to all of them, and it decreases their response time. And I don't know if that's why you stopped doing the yearbook, or it was great.
No, yearbook, I think, ended it because of COVID, right? And that's when we ended up going remote.
Yeah.
You know, or forced to go to remote initially, you know, and then we've maintained it.
Maybe maybe you put it. You don't have to print it. But you can put it on your website.
We've talked about it.
Put it on the claims website where they go in to do claims entry. Then they can see who's your adjuster today.
Yeah. Then you got the adjusters that don't want their pictures taken, right?
Yeah,
so then you
sure.
got the picture of some animation or something out there. But
That's
the headset.
Put it into AI.
Let them pick their own
Create
emoji.
Yeah.
No, but I always liked it. But, you know, in the past, like when I said I used to handle the dealer-specific claims, yeah, they would just call my extension. I would handle it. But that was a pretty inefficient model because you're always calling people back. You know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we had to make a little bit of a shift there to make sure we can maintain the standards. So
We talked about what makes a great service advisor. In those scenarios that Steve illustrated, what does set apart? You've got 100 adjusters, more than 100 adjusters. What is the one trait that sets them apart? A great adjuster from
an
new
average,
hire or average adjuster.
I there's a couple things I'm thinking of. You know, for me, it's when somebody really just has that care for the customer, you know, and they like helping people. Like, I mean, I see that trait in several people, especially in those people, and I know this because they're usually quickly identified as succession candidates to be more, right? Because they really care about the customer experience, they care about the people, people that, you know, I hate to use the term, bleed CNA, but we have some very, very loyal folks there, even some new hires that come in, and they're loyal because of the way they get treated, and they're loyal because for the same reason I stay. They know we do it right. They know we take care of our customers the right way and our clients. And you can quickly tell they want to help not only the customers, but they also want to help their coworkers too. And I see that a lot. So since even though we're fully remote, we have ability to connect with each other through various methods, electronically, where they either play games with each other in between calls or, do stuff. And and then they have each team has a standardized help chat where they're helping each other. And you can always tell the ones that stand out in there. They're always the ones that are answering. They're That's always awesome. The ones that are like, very quick, to help and get involved. And so what's kind of nice, because we can go through and we monitor those. I have access to all those. I can go in and you can clearly see who those people are. And it gives us, even without them saying anything, gives us some visibility on who are the key team members, who are the ones that maybe we need to start exposing to different things within the organization and building up their skills so they can do more.
Are you aware of anybody that was ahead of you in the remote game? Any other admins?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, and that was not really by design. It was almost by luck, would you say? Because you were having a brain drain in the late teens and realizing guys that were retiring with tons of experience, and you could get them to work part-time during the right parts of the season, the right days of the week. Hey, let's try this remote thing. Am I going down the right path?
The timing of it was...
And then COVID hit, and you had the model.
Yeah, it was a stroke of luck, honestly, of the timing. We were designing our remote work model for just what you described, Steve. Like, it was to be able to expand out. It was also a retention tool, so that we could keep the turnover low. Also, we were at the time, and we don't do it currently today, but we had some part-time folks that really didn't want to drive to the office. So it was an opportunity maybe to expand that out.
And they'd been doing it with you for a while. They were experienced ones.
Yep. And so we started building our remote work model in 2019 and worked on it. It was actually a fairly sizable effort, right? Because you got to have the visibility on the team in order to be able to effectively manage them. So we had to get the right tools in place. At the time, our phone system wasn't necessarily conducive to supporting it, so we had to have a solution, for that as well. And then we had our test group out. Our test group went out full time, and we had 5 adjusters at the time that were testing it for us locally in the Valley in Arizona. And they went out fully remote in February of 2020.
Do you guys know something we didn't know?
I mean, I can't make this up. It's a crazy story, right? And so then March 15th, 2020 is when, I get the call of like, we're going to need to figure out how to get
the IT department had a big job to
start. Well, it was like, we got to get everybody out of here,
right,
and sent home. How are we going to do this? Well, we had already had a month's full remote testing under our belt. It worked great. And so we spent 1 week training the team, and we had everybody out and home in 1 week. And couldn't have done that without the effort that happened in 2019.
And now you've been able to hire not necessarily better talent, but the net is so big, you can hire anybody from coast to coast, serve the different time zones you're open for.
Yeah.
And as a little, what do you call it, PSA, public service announcement, for all those that watch this and then suddenly want to go work for this guy, if you work for a dealer with CNA, don't bother sending your resume in.
Correct.
Mr. Dealer, they will never, ever allow somebody to apply that you do business with.
We will not poach from active business partners. That's just not a good practice, and we wouldn't want them doing that to us, and we extend the same courtesy as well. But it's
but to Steve's point too, I mean that does keep you from being a regional office that is taking just from Arizona and the Scottsdale and that area and branching out throughout the nation.
Yeah, the recruiting piece, aside from the volume, right? You cast a wider net, you get more fish, right?
Right.
You know, but it's it allows us to be very picky on who we want to bring onto the team. Like I said, I care a lot about the team, and I feel it's incumbent upon my team and my managers to bring the very best onto the team. And so there's two things that happen there, right? There's the wider net, so we can get more options in to review the talent. But also, we are very sensitive on the performance management aspect of the team, right? We need the best, and therefore, you know, if you're not, can't be trained, coached, or mentored, and it's you hear me talk about the skill versus will. If it's a will issue, we're gonna move pretty quick to resolve that issue and maybe part ways, you know, if we have to. And I feel less sensitivity around that because I do have a wide net. I mean, when we cast it out, it's not uncommon for me to get 80 resumes like in 2
Right.
weeks. I mean, it's pretty crazy, you know. And I think a lot of that's driven by the remote work. People are intrigued by that. You don't have to get up and drive and whatnot. But I will say we're pretty, you know, for those that want to come work for us, we're pretty strict on the fact that when you're working remote, I have higher expectations. Zero tolerance for showing up late to work when your commute is 12 feet. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Do you know who the most remote person you have is?
I don't. I mean, we got some people on the East Coast.
Bangor, Maine.
Up in
Calling Bangor, Maine.
I don't think we got anybody in Maine, but we've got
Alaska?
We've got Massachusetts, a couple in New York. We got some East Coasters. Nothing in Hawaii or.
I was gonna ask
Alaska or
Hawaii
anything
next.
Like that. No. But I think currently today, can't remember the number off the top of my head. I think we've got about 26 or 27 people that are, or 26, 27 states that we're in currently right now.
That's huge. That
yeah.
it adds such a dynamic to those conversations at dealer level that I don't think can go unnoticed. I think that's a huge advantage that you guys carry. Let's take a step back to the point you were making about what differentiates a great adjuster versus your run-of-the-mill adjuster. That part about caring about people and being able to communicate that care and both external customers as well as internal customers, right?
Yep.
Can you train that? Can you hire for that? Because again, you talked about it. One little caveat before you answer is that you talk about skill versus will. I call it knowing versus doing problems. Knowing problem is leadership within a dealership's responsibility to educate that person and train them up, right?
Yep.
And a doing problem is a middle finger, and I'll just show you the door.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of the same, similar theory as far as that goes, as far as leadership goes. But can you train for those? Can you hire for those too? I know you guys are very selective.
So the first part is the recruiting method, right? And we've worked really hard, specifically one of my managers on my team, I'll give him a little credit, Mr. Mike Bacosa, has really supercharged our recruiting process on our side. Really took a deep dive into what makes people tick, using the PIs, you know, the predictive index modeling, taking a look. Also, we have like what we call job pros at work, which is where the management team has gone through and will identify what makes a great adjuster, right? And then we will test the people on the team that are already like that to see what their PIs are like. And that gives us an idea if somebody's in a similar pattern, you know, we might have a better chance of having, you know,
That's great though.
striking gold again, right? And then you tailor the questions during the interview. And it's funny because, you know, you think hiring an adjuster would be a simple interview. It's like, you know, you fog a piece of glass and can you type, you know, and you're hired. That's not the case.
Nobody said that, Mike.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a lot more. I would say that interviewing process for the adjuster is kind of intense. I mean, it's you're almost like trying to talk them out of the job in a way, right? You know, like if you really want this job, here's what it takes. Here's what we're looking for. Here's the expectations. And if you still want it, great. And by the way, you better type more than 25 words a minute, you know, I mean, because, you know, there's just a lot of, you know, criteria that we look for in making sure that we get the right people on the team, you know, and even then you're not 100%, right? I mean,
No,
even
absolutely
then
not.
there's still a little bit of a crapshoot there, but we've had a lot better success. The team, the quality of the team has been increasing year over year, and I'm very, very happy with the process that we have in place already, but we continue to refine that and get better.
And the bench you're building.
Yep.
That's great. Now we're going to go from theory to the playbook. This is how CNA does handle a claim. These questions in this section. for a dealer principal or F&I director watching this and realizing that their VSC partnership feels a little bit rocky, what are those non-negotiables of a healthy claims relationship?
Well, I say, for them calling in claims to us it's the honesty, piece, so whether we like to admit it in the industry or not, fraud is very prevalent right now in the industry, and they like to call it upsells or, I guess the PC term would be preventative repairs. So those are repairs where there's nothing wrong with the vehicle yet, but we're going to go ahead and fix it for you anyway so that you don't have a problem in the future.
Right.
Okay. And that's not what service contracts are designed for. Service contracts are designed for an actual breakdown that's occurred at that time, not a preventative repair, and any vehicle is going to have failures at some point in its lifespan, but the contracts are meant to be designed to have a failure right then. So I would say when you're having conversations with a store, it's like that is one thing that we do watch for, on the claim side that, is the unnecessary preventative repairs, and that's a growing issue in the industry. It's being driven by service advisors' pay plans and those goalposts that I was telling you about
Say
earlier.
we just discussed this, yeah.
It drives people to do things that they normally wouldn't do in order to reach those goals, and so that's where my the team back at the office, the claims team, that's where they their bread and butter comes in. Is we ask the appropriate questions, and of course they're trained. We're not there to make them feel bad. I mean, they have a job to do. They're trying to do what they need to do, but so do we, right? And we're going to stick to the four corners of the contract. It's a mechanical breakdown contract, meaning it has to be failed at that time. And as long as the dealership understands that up front, there won't be any issues. But if they continuously try to go after those types of things, it's definitely going to stand out.
And what we're talking about is obviously adding lines to an RO that are unnecessary to actually repair the vehicle and get it back working.
Yes.
So, and again, I can speak more directly about that and let you stay in that lane at which you're driving. So as far as behaviors from a dealer, we'll kind of expand on that too. A dealer GM or service manager, how can you tell the difference between a serious partner or, I'm just going to call it out, you don't have to agree with this terminology by any stretch, but somebody who perceives an open RO VSC repair as a blank checkbook?
Yep.
So what do you see as a GM service manager, not dealer principal? We know that relationship's a little bit more nuanced and robust, and we don't need to go down that path.
So what do we see as a general manager's point of view?
Or service manager, if that's
a good partner with us in that case. I would say, they're not filing for the preventative repairs. That is the one thing that I would say that we see the most of. I mean, that is probably the most prevalent today is we get, and you can always tell, the customer comes in with one or two complaints and all of a sudden they're calling back and there's 5 line items on it, and a lot of them are going to be wear items like, you got your ball joints or your control arm bushings, this, that, and the other, because those are the ones that are the most obvious to go after, on there. And that's when we start asking the questions like, what is the amount of wear on a ball joint, those kind of things. That's where the technician mindset, where you're trying not to overdiagnose these things, but you're trying to ask the appropriate questions to validate that the actual part is failed beyond the manufacturer specifications. And so it's challenging in that regard because we get viewed as we're looking for ways out of the claim, right? And that's not the case. We're trying to validate that the claim is actually legitimate. And that's also based on the experience that we get, from the store. And so what I would say is, like, if I was talking to a general manager, or even a service director, that it would say is like, well, you guys are being challenging and being hard. It's like, well, let's take a look at your claims. Let's take a look at the types of claims you're getting. And then keep in mind that we have benchmarking data. Like we know what is within the range for that vehicle and that type of dealer across the U.S. We've got an immense amount of data, right? We know where things probably should be at when it comes to frequency and severities, on any type of repair, right? Honestly, on any vehicle. And so when things start to stand out and you start looking at that, I think that's where you got to have that discussion with the dealer and just be like, hey, here's what we're seeing. Don't know why. could potentially maybe have a behavioral issue. And honestly, you could have maybe just one rogue service advisor.
Right.
You might have 6, out in your service drive or more. You might have 1 or 2 out there that are causing the friction for you.
What doesn't a service manager or general manager know about their advisors? What don't you think they know?
So I will say this. Back in the day, and you remember this, Steve, we used to bring in service managers. Remember once in a while we had a service manager?
Yeah, you ran that. You love that job. Sarcastic.
It was entertaining. It was entertaining. Let's just say that. But I had my thoughts on that. But part of what we do is we'd have them come down and sit on the phones, and they would get to listen to some claims calls. And ironically enough, it would happen more often than not. They actually got to hear their own shops calling claims.
Oh, wow.
And what they don't know is how unprepared these guys are when they call in.
Calling all dealers, listen to it right there.
I mean, it's
prepared.
unbelievable. I mean, they'll call in and be like, "So you got your estimates ready?" No. I mean, they literally, most claims can be handled in one call. It's usually lack of preparation on the service advisor side as to the reason why it goes beyond
It's 5 Ps, isn't it?
call.
Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yes.
Never heard of that before, but that's a good one. I'll have to write that down. But,
My gift to you.
Yeah, but just being completely unprepared is probably the most common thing that we see. Now, I would say part of it is due to turnover, at the stores. It seems like we're continuously, I hate to use the word training, but you're training the service advisor on how to process it.
You guys are training them more than the dealer are.
We are, yeah.
I believe that.
Through the process, and it's just through that repetitive kind of muscle memory thing, they know what we're going to ask for when they call in the claim. But 9 times out of 10, it's lack of information and being unprepared. And when I say lack of information, it's like, so what happened with it? I don't know. It's just bad. Well, I need to know what happened, and it's like, radiator failed. Why? Did a rock go through it, or
Right.
was it, rusted? Is it corroded? Is it just leaking? I mean, it's like a lot of times they don't have that information. And this is claims 101. I mean, this is not
Right.
rocket science stuff here, right, guys? I mean, we're asking for it on every single claim. So
I feel like so much training is given, the training that is given to those people is about how to sell the customer instead of training on really the blocking and tackling, the basics of how to do your job and set that claim up, because you're going to do a lot of them. And I would assume, you can answer this over me, I would assume that needs to be the same mentality for an OEM claim, for a factory warranty claim.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you do it both ways, right? Why wouldn't you train that so that when you're filing your factory warranty claims, you're doing the same process as when
you
you're
would
doing?
think. You would think. I think a lot of times it's because on the factory warranty, they're not calling and talking to somebody, right? It's just electronic, boom, boom,
Correct.
boom, sending it over.
Yeah, and they walk away from it not realizing there's an audit.
Yeah, you can have your paybacks after that, right?
Yeah.
Or, something. So yeah, it is interesting concept, but I would say most common, unprepared, missing information. That's what causes inspections too, frankly. I mean, just to be candid with everybody, like if we don't feel comfortable with the information that was given, and after digging and trying to get that information, we don't have it, then we don't have any other option but to get a third opinion on it, right? And so
There's
for all
the
of
next
those that
piece of
listen
gold
out
that
there,
Philip's gonna take advantage of. That's
Absolutely.
so important.
it is. It's probably one of the most important things, So it's the attention to detail. If you remember Mr. Randy Rife, right?
Of course.
Back in the day, he had a saying that he said to me that stuck to me, and I love it, right? And it's like, if you want to be terrific, you got to be specific, And it's like,
That's awesome.
and I love that saying. I live by that. So, Randy, if you're watching,
Kudos.
kudos to you, my friend. I've kept that. So,
A rose he passes to Randy Rife,
It was a good one.
another good military veteran.
yes, helicopter pilot. So,
We talked about earlier too. We talked about the importance of fixed operations being the primary income source for dealers now that we've seen compression on new and used vehicles. Finance plays a huge role in that. We're going to stay off the F&I manager space for this particular question. But we're seeing dealers, Mike, for all intents and purposes, do a disservice to their partnership with administrators like you and specifically with agencies like us I'm going to get to a question. I'll paint the picture a little more. I'm trying to be political.
Yeah, no problem.
But with that being said, we've seen dealers at the dealership level increasing their warranty rates, right? We've seen them try to add lines to open ROs on VSCs. And this isn't bad behavior. We're not casting that shadow. It's just not best practices when we talk about claims, right? It should be avoided. Some of these things need to be needs more time spent on them before the decision is made. Those big picture things aside, what is one simple change a dealership could make in the next 30 days that would dramatically improve their claims experience? Not just with you guys, but with whichever administrator they're with currently.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Got a bunch of things in my mind. So I'll start off with this too. I mean, I'm definitely want to make sure that, that dealers understand, like, I get it. You have to make a profit. I mean, Steve, you and I have had this conversation multiple times. The service advisor's job is to sell service.
Right.
Okay? And that's how they make their money. And the dealership, a lot of times the service department, in fact, especially now, that's what keeps the lights on. It's what pays the bills, right? And so I get it, right? But when you're with CNA, it's a partnership, right? And so it has to make sense for both people, right? I think there's a way, and we know it. We know it's possible. We have a lot of it where you can be profitable on the dealer side while at the same time having a really healthy service contract business as well, And it comes through, again, not trying to sell stuff that isn't broken on the vehicle, understanding it's a mechanical breakdown contract for that business. Also, understanding that it's about the long game. What I see a lot of times on the dealers is they're trying to hit a home run on every single ticket that comes in the door, right? And I'm more about the long game. I always have that saying back at office, I don't care about the individual battles. I want to win the war, right? And which means I don't mind losing a few battles here and there,
right.
But ultimately we want to win the war. And I think sometimes dealers or even service advisors, service directors lose that view. It's like you'll get a lot more with the volume than you will, hitting it out of the park on the one.
It's a very difficult message to deliver, obviously, because we've got advisors that are worried about making their mortgage payment and their car payment.
Yep.
Right? We've individualized it, and those are the people making the calls ultimately. But the minute they start looking at the big picture, which is hard, that's a culture thing at the dealership level, the same way it's a culture situation for CNA. It's a difficult message to put on the ground because of that pay plan, because of that behavior, because of a technician that might be coloring outside the lines as well and looking for work as well.
Yep.
So it is very difficult, and it's a very difficult message to translate for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right answer there, right? I think it's a multitude of things.
I think the answer is how you said it, though, too, not to cut you off, but you said partnership.
Yeah.
That's what it has to be. It has to be mutually beneficial.
It is. It can't be a one-sided relationship, otherwise it's never going to work, So
We both experienced that.
Yep.
And what you said a minute ago, preparation would make everybody's life be so much easier.
It is, and it's funny. It has me sitting here thinking. I've got a bunch of things running through my head about it'd be great to do like an in-depth study of a dealer who does it right, per se.
Yeah.
I know that's a broad term too, but what is the difference? What do we see? Something's going to stand out, and likely it's going to be a lot of the things that we just touched on. It's the not upselling things that aren't necessary. It's keeping appropriate labor rates, in place. I mean, we're seeing some crazy ones right now. And of course, there's companies out there that do it for these dealers, right? So they don't even have to touch it anymore. And it's, and it's definitely a growing problem.
It's so profitable. They're not doing it for free, by the way.
Yes.
These companies that are doing it for 5% up to 10%
right, they get a
share.
percentage of it. Right. Which means
it's
it's
very
huge.
profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane. 100% true.
I want to expand on the question you asked.
Yeah.
You were asking about the dealer. What would you teach your technicians? How would you guide them? How would you train them? Because that is the genesis of the claim. I guess the customer complaint is, but the first person to touch it's that technician. So how would you guide them? And I'm sure this isn't an easy question.
I keep going back to, it starts at the top, right,
Yeah, it
guys?
does.
I mean, it has to be a mentality that starts in, and I'd like to say the dealer principle, but sometimes they're somewhat removed, right? From the day to day. So let's start at the GM level. The GM has to drive that behavior within the organization, down. We have a dealer, locally in Arizona, and what I like about them is they want to know when we see stuff that's not okay, right? And so we'll send an inspector out, or we'll have the photographs come in, and we had a situation where the technician was clearly spraying oil on the shocks to make them look like they were leaking, right? And of course, the overspray that was past the shock onto the inside of the wheel well was a dead giveaway that this
Right.
was not a normal failure. No dust or grime buildup, no nothing. I mean, it's just it was very obvious. And what I liked is I have a direct conduit to the general manager of the one store, who happens to be like the son of the owner, right? And
This isn't a single point dealership, is it?
no,
Yeah.
and sent the information to him, and I mean he was calm on the
Violence
phone.
of action. Yeah.
He was very concerned, and then what really impressed me is because I gave it to him not with any expectation of any follow up. I was just like, here you go, please address.
Right.
That was it. I mean, he followed up with me of here's what's going on. And he goes, this is actually a new technician that we started here. And guess what? That was how he was trained in his previous job, was to do that at another local store here in town, which he was more than glad to give me that information of which store that was, right? Of course, they're on the radar now, right? But I was impressed, right, that they took it that seriously.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second too, Steve, to your point as well, that there has to be a balance. You don't want I'm just going to use generic terms because this is dealership level that I'm referring to, but you don't want a used car technician looking for everything he possibly can identify upstream, let alone downstream, to make additional repairs and open up more lines on an RO. You also don't want somebody so ingrained in the part failure replace motion too. I'm talking operations from a GM's point of view, service director's point of view. You want there to be a little bit of digging to find out, what caused it. Let's make sure that we're on the same page.
Yep.
And let's take care of the customer kind of thing, versus creating problems or trying to identify lines on an RO. So again, I'm playing devil's advocate for lack of a better term, to identify that there is a difference, and it's a very fine line. You walk that fence, even with good technicians. I think you walk that fence.
Yeah. What what we see a lot of now too, though, is the mindset shift, right? And I've heard about it from people who get their cars repaired at work. Is you go into the dealer and the service advisor literally will tell them, my job is to put your vehicle back to brand new, like it was when it rolled off the factory, right? Now, keep in mind, this vehicle's got 100,000 miles on it. Service contract's job is to put it back to the condition it was in right prior to the breakdown, right?
Correct.
Not rebuild your entire car back to new, right? And I think that's the mind shift philosophy that I've seen probably more prevalent across the industry right now is, and that's where if I was sitting down in front of a general manager, that would be the first thing I would clarify is here's the intent of a service contract, and all service contracts are that way. That's not just specific to CNA, right? But they utilize it as a way to completely rebuild the car back to brand new, and that's the challenge that we're facing a lot.
We'll go one level above that too, and this is for our used car managers out there that are listening to this. We do not recondition our vehicles on a warranty on a VSC either. So that
Correct.
Same type of mentality is
So you got the early claims.
Yes.
30-day claims, 30, 60, 90. It's
The part that gets me on that, it has nothing to do with service contracts.
zero.
And because a service or a used car manager or an unknowledgeable person to say, oh, you're just worried about you or worried about that service contract company. And my answer is no, I'm worried about you. And they go, what do you mean? And I can pretty much guarantee in a dealership like this, you don't have the highest performers. So I say, okay,
Yep.
tell me what your service contract penetration is in the store. Oh,
Right.
well, we're rocking 30%, which is below the industry, way below. But I'm telling you, there's a correlation between these two people that
You're right.
weak performing there and that weak used car manager. And I said, so the problem you got is if this is happening on 30% of your customers that I can see they're coming back in 30 days and there's a problem. What about the 70% you didn't sell a service contract to? Now what are you doing? Because all you're doing is causing heartache for a customer, heartache for the dealer, and the dealer who really is who takes it in the shorts here. And I've got some that just never saw it that way because he's paying the really good dealers out there are going to say, oh, wait, let me take care of the customer. And they step up and they fix the car and they pay for it. They're paying for it, not that used car manager, not that used car salesman. That's not fair. It's not right. And who really lost is the customer. Why didn't you just
every time
put that car to where it should be based on its miles as a used car and fix something that's glaringly bad instead of saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to spend that much money on that used car. I already put all the money in that car. Well, then you bid it bad because you didn't look closely enough to see there was a problem.
The scariest part is, let's use some general manager calculus. There's more profit in the throughput of putting that vehicle through the
I wasn't even going to go there.
Because those sales managers that are underperforming sell from cost anyway. So who really cares? Just get the money through the service department.
Right. And yet the dealership and the bottom line.
We just offended so many sales managers out there right now.
We did. But I'm sorry. My primary concern is the customer, the end customer. Because if we give a dealer and any one of his personnel the right strategy and the right processes, they will be more successful and their customers will like them more. That's the end game.
Only every time.
Only every time.
Yeah. But then you get the dealers that will put the customer in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that I'm betting this happens. And I know it's happened a couple of times and it really makes me cringe. You can identify a market. You know generally what a labor rate is in a geographical market.
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay. You've got all the data.
We track that, yeah.
And somebody comes from that area code and that market, and they are $150 more an hour.
Yep.
How do you handle that? Because to me, that's just stealing. But I get it. I'm not trying to take profit out of anybody's mouth, but it's just we're not talking things that are close. It's egregious, some of the things I've seen.
Yeah, we've had a couple examples. For some reason, it seems to appear up in Massachusetts area.
I thought you told me once we talked about this in Pennsylvania somewhere.
So, yep. I mean, we see them all over sporadically here and there, but Massachusetts seems to pop up frequently where we're getting requests of $450 to $500 an hour.
Holy cow.
Right, which is literally about $250 more an hour than what the going rate is, in that area. And that's actually a pretty easy conversation. The tougher ones is when they're only off by a little, say $50, an hour here and there. But, when it's an egregious like that, what we do is we challenge the customer. Have you checked around? Have you called?
What do you say, or what are your people supposed to say if they're on the phone, and that the advisor says to the adjuster, "Oh, I'll just charge the difference to the customer."
So yeah, that happens.
I know it happens. That bothers me.
It happens. And so it's like
because you're already paying market rate,
right?
MSRP parts. You're paying what the repair should.
Yep. And
cost.
So what we do is we also let them know that it's likely the customers are going to call. Okay. And we will educate the customer on what the going rate is.
And you tell the advisor that.
Yes.
That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Because
that's insanity.
It is our job to educate the customer on what their contract limitations are based on the terms and conditions of the contract.
Yeah, right.
And especially in those areas, we can just say, listen, here's 3 shops in the area that are charging XXX, they're in the same, they service the same model vehicles, this, that, and the other. You have the option to take it there as well, but this is why we're going to be limiting what we can pay.
All right. So let's move on from bad actors, fraud, increase in door and labor rates, and adding lines to ROs. Those were all good things on how, by the way. That was brilliant. Mike, that was brilliant. Let's move on to the claims portal. You and your team, CNA,
favorites.
What's that?
One of my favorites.
He smiled.
I know he did. That's why I wanted to move on from this, put a smile back on his face.
Proud of that one.
After all these other things. You won 2025 Motor Top 20 Award. What problem with the new claims portal, what problem were you actually trying to solve when you started this project?
So a couple things, right? We wanted to be able, clients are asking for it.
Right.
right? You know, so that's the key thing. We want to make sure that we're providing our clients with how they want to do business with us, right? You know, so we've of course have been known for many, many, many years about being the best on the phones, right? Very fast answer times, this, that, and the other.
Absolutely.
We did have some stress, this last year with increasing call volumes, longer phone calls, because of some of the challenges that we talked about, right? You know, so call times went up. When you do the kind of call volume that we do, if you add a minute to your phone call, it adds up, right? And you can start to feel some stress, you know, as a result of that. So it provides an additional avenue for our dealers, whether they are active or inactive with us, to be able to file the claims so they don't have to call in, you know, the claims. And we have currently a 2-hour turnaround or less, 2 hours or less turnaround on the portal side. You know, on the phone side, we're very, very fast. I won't say where we're at today, but it's just say that it's very fast. Less than a minute.
Don't say it. Don't say it because it's going to lead into my next question. Let's just keep it very fast. Yep.
But it
still industry leading.
yes, and but it provides us the ability to handle those claims efficiently and also handle it in a way that the dealership wants to handle their business. So, Steve,
They want to be communicated with how they want to be communicated with.
And you and I spoke today. You know, if a dealer needs an immediate answer on the claim, call it in. You know, they're going to be done in 7-8 minutes.
Now,
right?
there he said it. There he said it.
Yep. You know, it's like if most claims it can wait a little bit, submit it on the portal. You know, but we can handle both ways.
So, a lot of industry tools they end up being software that nobody really opens, nobody really uses, and you guys are blessed, but also cursed with that expedient phone process, right?
Sure.
How do you make sure that portal actually gets adopted? How do you increase that adoption rate at store level? And again, aside from maybe some of the obvious things like we've always done business this way, or technology adopting individuals within that store or whatever, we'll try to stay as political as we can when we say those words, right?
Sure.
But how do you increase that rate? How do you make this the first option in stores that are so used to you guys being so good on the phone? Because that's never going to change.
Yeah, I think it's communication. It comes down to the communication piece, getting the word out there, which frankly we could be a little better at, I think.
Yeah, but every time somebody calls, the first thing they hear is, if you'd like to do this online, ask your agent. You still have that advertisement out there.
We do have it, but it also has to be communicated, I think, effectively out as well. And it's something we just don't do a lot of today. To your point, the adoption rate, you know, is kind of plateaued a little bit for us, and it is because the phone times are so low, you know, right now, you know, so you're getting, you know, near instantaneous, you know, claim handling, you know, right away. But it is a growing segment. It is growing slowly. I do think it is, we had talked about it earlier in our meeting today, a generational thing. I think there's some of the like millennial type folks tend to lean that way. The folks that don't like being on the phone.
Talk to people.
They don't want to. They would rather do chat or, you know, this, that, and the other. They love it, you know. And so, in fact, we have some dealers that they do only submit claims, you know, via the portal, and then we have some that choose not to at all. So it's highly dependent on the types of folks that are in the store. But for ours, it's just getting the word out. I think we could, you know, probably showcase a little better with some training videos, things of that sort. Of course, Steve, you know, I'm going to set up some time with David to, you know, get some exposure there, and, you know, we'll record that session, right? You know, so that you can utilize it and be able to get that out.
I think you need to add another one of, here are the things that would make your claim go faster.
Yeah, it is. You know, and these things weren't necessarily, it's funny, everybody always thinks that we did it as a way to make it more efficient for us, and that wasn't the case. You know, our phone process is very efficient.
We have admins that did it for that
right,
purpose.
You know,
For sure.
but
it makes sense.
you know, it was meant to be a way for it to be efficient for the store, you know, because one of the big things that I love about the portal is once you start a claim, you don't have to finish it. It can actually just sit there. It could sit there for days. And then when you're ready to come back to it, you can come back to it and pick it up right where you went off. So a lot of times it frees up the service advisor. He's typing in a claim, customer walks up, he can stop, handle that customer, and then he can come right back to it and finish it up. And that was the feedback that we got from our local dealer that we did, you know, beta testing at and training at. They loved it, you know, right away because it gave them the flexibility to handle their day the way they wanted to handle it.
I am going to segue. I was trying to talk myself out of it as we all paused together right there. So again, operationally at the dealer level, I want, if I'm the GM of the store, if it's Jacobson Motors, Utopia Motors, whatever label you want to give it, I want my service advisors to be greeting customers as they walk in, not be on the phone.
Sure.
So at the store level, again, for our audience sake, I don't know why adoption isn't upwards of 90%. And I know it's inverse to that to some extent. I know the percentages. I don't understand at the dealership level, system level, customer satisfaction level, why it's not the inverse of what it actually is. And if I was a service manager and I was looking at my service advisors not greeting customers as they walked in the door, I'd want to pull my hair out.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Your portal is, I know I don't have much hair. I meant beard. I'd pull my beard out, asshole. So I just don't understand.
These are the stages of Rogaine. He's got all the
I
hair.
know
And
he's
I'm in
got
between.
a set of hair on him for sure.
I got some gray showing up though. They're all
We didn't even
named.
talk about my gray, Mike. He was just saying I was bald. But yes, there's lots of gray in my beard too. But I don't understand, with as robust as your tool is, with as much as it frees the writer up to begin their claim and come back to their claim, which buys them time to meet and greet a customer, to welcome them to the dealership, why we're just not all adopt. And again, it falls on the GMs. This is not your responsibility as CNA. It's not the agency's responsibility to implement these things. I just don't understand the behavior at the dealership level to not adopt this completely.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's, but again, I think, it's going to start at the top, right?
Right.
If somebody really is being passionate about that piece of greeting the customers, they would implement it. They would
Right.
just say, you're not calling it anymore. You will utilize, this feature. That doesn't really happen. I think that some of the dealers are also afraid of turnover. I think that, the technicians and service advisors do have a lot of power in the sense that they can just walk when they don't like something, and the technicians are the same way. They don't like it. They don't like their pay plan. I don't like my spot in the shop or whatever. I'm walking because the next dealer down the street is hiring. They're going to
Promise me the moon.
And he's okay with the phone being glued to my ear.
Yeah.
Brian,
don't
can
have
I
to
tell you a
smile.
little story?
Yes, please.
There was a horse and there was some water. The end.
The end. I mean, it is true though. And that's 100% right. That's the most salient point to that whole conversation. So there is, as I see it, there's a tension between speed and accuracy. And to the dealership level, we talk about that. We talk about how great and the benefits of the portal. But what does the human still do better than that software, and where does that line move next?
So I think where the caveat would be is when you're on the phone and we have an additional question, we can ask it, right? Whereas on the portal, if there's missing information, then we have to submit it back, right? And ask for that information. Right. That's the only difference, right? Would be, there's that volleying back and forth. Now, I would say on the portal claims, typically they only use them for simpler claims is usually what I see. 1-2
Right.
line items. That's the bulk of the claims that we see come through there. So there's not a lot of back and forth. But when you're on the phone and we need more information, we can just ask it and we get it right then. So that's where I think
Here's the crazy
human
part
piece,
of that
yeah.
though. That saves at least one phone call, which frees me up to say hello to a customer and smile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If it takes a second phone call, fine. I would have had to probably make 2 phone calls, maybe not. Maybe I got lucky on the first call.
Yep. That's really the only, I wouldn't say complaint, but that was the only feedback we got is there's a little back and forth.
And I get it. I'm not, again, that was Utopia Motors. Believe me, I've been in the building. I understand how it works.
Yep.
And I understand the pushback you get. So let's talk about, again, I'm going to bring up the word. We talk about it often. I don't scoff because I am a early adopter. I use it for just about everything. There is a artificial intelligence component that has supplanted a lot of what we do on the day-to-day basis within the dealership.
Sure.
I assume you guys are feeling the same pressure as CNA to accommodate AI technology. Mm-hmm. You used a term earlier, and again, I'm going to draw back because I'm going to tee you up for this one really easily. You said that AI will never adjudicate a claim within CNA.
Well, I wouldn't say never. I would say that we're not looking at it currently for
before
today.
the Terminator arrives,
Yep.
and he's here running us, and we are simply living off gruel and doing entry for them, assuming the computers don't take over.
Yep.
Never adjudicate.
Yeah. So for me, when I think about AI currently today, right, and it's I want to preface that, because AI is a constantly evolving, capability. Currently today, what I'm looking for is to leverage it to remove any manual processes that I have that are repetitive little things. Now, when I think about claims adjudication on it, stuff like prepaid maintenance, simple claims, tire and wheel claims and stuff are probably ripe, for auto adjudication using AI. It can recognize photographs. It can, tell certain things. I mean, there is some really, really cool capabilities out there that exist today. But it also does take away from the customer experience as well.
Correct.
So we've looked at, a couple different options out there as well. The one that's absolutely horrible, and I'm sure many of you would agree, dealing with an AI voice
Correct.
person is terrible.
Terrible.
And that is something I am not a fan of and wouldn't be supportive. And we've seen some solutions, have been demonstrated some solutions to us on it. It is absolutely the most horrific experience. Absolutely, that's a hard no, on that currently today, right? I would assume it'll get better, over time, but it's definitely not there, today.
Steve drew on this earlier, and I kind of talk about this whenever we talk about AI, but automotive retail's kind of been the tip of the spear for AI from inception. From chatbots
Yep.
to autoresponders to some of these other kind of things that we've implemented at the retail level, at store level, brick and mortar, from click to brick, all that stuff. We have been the tip of the spear. What Steve alluded to earlier and this is very prevalent in most stores, and I think it will only get more prevalent. The stories that are being told on claims are usually, I shouldn't say usually, I actually don't know what the percentage is. I don't think it's a majority, but I would assume that based on general customer behavior, that there is a lot of AI-generated stories being submitted as claims as well. How do you plan on differentiating between or interpreting those stories on your end of the claims process?
Yeah, I don't think we've really delved too much into that yet.
I mean, a good story is a good story. We want good stories.
So we haven't seen it on the portal claims per se. Those are pretty, it's just, we ask for very minimal information, on the portal to keep it as efficient as possible. We haven't had any voice claims being called in yet, or anything like that as of yet. And we haven't seen that I'm aware of anything on the portal side. What's interesting though is we do see it on the recruiting side a lot.
For sure.
The AI stuff, of course, resumes, things of that sort. What's always interesting is when you can look at one of the resumes, because, a lot of people put stuff in white font and can hide it.
Copy and pasting in white font.
AI can see it.
Yeah.
But you visually cannot. And we have a way that we filter that out so that it pops up where we can see it. And almost every single one has it. So, because what they're trying to do is, keywords. It'll be like at something, or you're trying to call out key attributes that you may have, and so you stand out in an AI bot. They think we're using AI to filter out their resumes, and we're not currently, but a lot of people are, and so it's very interesting that almost all the resumes are generated by AI now.
It's crazy. It's the world we live in. That's where we're going. All the roses to you, all the praise to you, all the kudos to you. You know what good. Now that you've been through the experience, you know what good digital transformation looks like with the creation of the portal, the award-winning portal. What have you learned and what have you seen in your industry on companies that get it wrong? And Steve, you kind of touched on this too, about companies just doing it for the sake of doing it as far as the portal and that process goes. What have you learned from that? Not that you're looking for more digital transformation necessarily, but...
Oh, we always are. I think that's how, that's the way of the world today is, you can, do more. For me, I look at it more of a customer experience, accuracy, Removing the human element that can cause mistakes and errors out of it is kind of, so this repetitive manual process thing, it's super ripe for that. And it's great for that kind of stuff where you can be very consistent, very accurate, and make a lot less errors on certain processes, That's one of the big wins. A lot of times in our digital transformation journey that we've had at CNA outside of, say, phone call, like our workforce management tools, things like that, how we manage the phone side of it, which we take to Olympic sport level,
Right.
there. But it's, for me, it's not about the efficiency gain per se. It's about the customer experience, accuracy, removing those manual processes so that we can be very consistent in how we adjudicate the claims. Now, the side effect of that can be, in some cases, some efficiency gains, So like on, our claim system, we'll have automatic call-outs for parts and labor, automatic call-outs for, to our parts suppliers, things of that sort. Of course, that's an efficiency gain for the team, but the primary purpose behind that was to provide a consistent view to all the adjusters on the claim so that it's very consistent, very accurate, and everybody's handling it the same way. That's the key driver behind the bulk of our digital transformations that we do on the claim side.
It sounds like a system, not a compilation of processes, which I think is phenomenal. So we're going to transition to some leadership and some cultural, and we're going to talk about the long game, what you see in the next 3 to 5 years. But from a claim seat, Mike, what does it look like when a dealer sells a VSC the right way at the desk? And what does it look like when they sell it the wrong way 6 months later when you're the one resolving the claim?
Gee, I was thinking about that bumper-to-bumper comment.
I know.
It's coming up again.
That low-hanging fruit of B2B.
It's usually the unrealistic expectations of what the service contract's going to do. I mean, that's usually the most what we see, and I hate to use the bumper to bumper thing, but that's usually what it is.
Right.
They tell them it's going to cover everything, and you can take it anywhere, and it's going to be no problem. And it's just they're not level setting the expectations with the customer what the service contract is for. They're selling it as more of like a factory warranty. It's like it's not meant to put your car back to new. It's meant to repair a breakdown at the time, a failure. It's just the mismatch of expectations at the time of sale. And I will say the bumper thing stands out. That's why I called it out as
It's
one of the terms, because it's very true that the customer leaves thinking that everything is covered on the vehicle, and then they come in and they have a battery go bad or something like that, right? And it's like, what do you mean? It's bumper to bumper, and it's like, well, then you got to have the conversation about here's your exclusions, and they're like, oh, I see, it's the fine print. You expected me to read that, It's just, it's those kind of things, that I think would be, good dealers will set the expectation of, yeah, this is your top level of coverage. Here's some example of things that you can expect that are not covered, though. The normal stuff, belts, hoses, batteries, A good F&I guy is going to just walk through a high level. It doesn't have to go through in complete detail, but at least they can tell. Like there's a section in there that tells you what's not covered. If you want some, take a peek at it so you understand what's going on. But this is the highest level of coverage.
And that's what percentage of your contracts you sell today? It's a crazy number.
I'm not sure today. Used to be very high, right?
It's in the 90s.
It used to be, yeah. I don't think it is anymore. I think there's been somewhat of a shift in that as of late. But,
and we were talking about this earlier this morning. I think it's with the sale of more and more used cars with higher mileage, you're not going to see either A, an eligibility of an exclusionary level coverage on that vehicle, or B, at that whatever mileage that might be, exclusionary just might not be financially feasible because they get kind of expensive.
Yep.
At that point. But yeah, other than that, you're right. I think it's the standard procedure to say, I can't tell you about the 25,000 things that are covered on the vehicle. Let me review some of the examples of things that are not.
Yeah, here's the most common things. Battery, belts, hoses, spark plugs. I mean, it's, the normal maintenance, think anything maintenance, is going to be, not covered. But they just, the good dealers do that. The ones that aren't are just shotgunning it, right?
It's very, and again, I'll speak at dealership level. And Steve, I'm going to ask you a question here too. But at dealership level, of course, we don't want to create objections, right? If I'm coaching my finance team, the last thing you want to do is, create an issue where there's not an issue. You want to speed to a yes. But there is good faith in your description and selling of the product. Steve, I'm going to ask you this question, and Mike, I want you to think about about this as well, but if you could put a note, because we do this literally every day, where we train F&I professionals and coach F&I professionals and how to do things better and understand the true partnership between, administrators, agency, and dealer. What's the one note, post-it note, that you would want on every finance manager's computer in America today that would allow them a better opportunity and a more, honest representation of what they're doing?
Act like your name's on the building. I mean, it's just that simple.
It is.
You represent everybody that works in that building. You represent the person whose name is on the building, his name in the paper, whose face is on the billboard, whatever it is. You act like it's yours and you treat it as such. That's never been a hard question for me. So thanks for the softball, but yeah, treat it like it's yours.
No, I love that though, right? Because I look at it that same way too.
You do.
When I look at CNA as a whole, or as just individual as a team, I treat it like it's mine, like it's, whether it's
There is a tattoo somewhere, nobody's seen it. Maybe his wife.
maybe not even then, but yeah, it's you have to treat it like it is your own, and run it like it was your business, and it's like, and if you look at it through that lens, it does change your viewpoint on it.
It should.
Anymore. It's like, and you'll tell that, like, sometimes I'll hear an adjuster and it of course piques my attention. It's like, well, it's not my money. I'm just, it's like, but it is, like I look at that differently, and then I don't want to hear that on my team at all, so it's, if we do hear that or there's those comments, we definitely address those situations very quickly, because it's very important. I love you said that, because that is exactly, you're 100% right, probably in any business, really, in any,
Well, here, and again, I kind of want to expand on that and unpack that a little bit and give you an opportunity to build on this as well. Is you are removing the silos. You've been tasked, and Johan has tapped you on the shoulder to suggest that it's not only claims anymore, it's operations and it's sales.
Correct.
So now that we're pulling those silos away, and now that we're allowing it to be viewed as the entirety of CNA.
Yep.
How do you deliver that message to your team? I mean, it can't be, it's as basic and fundamental, exactly what Steve is saying,
Yeah.
but that becomes a leadership opportunity for you.
This is the part that Johan's going to put on the screen at the next, town hall meeting from Mike Bacosa.
Well, I will tell you, when I first was, when we first discussed that and discussed why that's important, I was thinking that was going to be a bigger, taller task than what it was. And it wasn't, because what quickly happened was the two leaders that are over those areas right now quickly realized that their resource pool and their support like tripled in size.
Right.
They weren't these lone wolves sitting over there trying to figure out stuff. Now they have a collective team
Rowing in the same direction.
of knowledge and expertise, because whether it's claims operations or sales support, we're all doing the same thing. We're taking care of clients, or taking care of customers. And there is a standardized approach that you can do on that, right? As far as how you look at your team, build your team, support your team. So our leader in operations, her name is Shaughnessy, does a great job down there. She has probably benefited the most so far, because now she's got an incredible depth of managers on the claims team that have access to and are experts in a lot of the technology tools that she uses, and can help her really supercharge her team, and leveraging those tools and whatnot. And so the walls are down, and we've been working really well together. We have our management team meetings together. I mean, I do have separate ones with claims and operations, for very specific topics, but we have a operational meeting where all the managers come in and we talk about, just in general, talent development, succession planning, and then we also talk about the different performance metrics and stuff with each department. And the whole point of that is to get everybody on the same page of, how do you develop those team members? How do you support them? Setting the expectations, raising the bar, basically across all the teams, and that's been working pretty well. It actually happened a little faster than I thought it would, but also it's because it only benefits them. I don't know why they wouldn't embrace it, right? you know, unless
here's where I get a little jealous operationally. As you know, again, 27 years in retail automotive. I have some rose-colored glasses as it pertains to that, right?
Sure.
I don't hide that. I talk about it all the time on the podcast. But with that being said, I think the one thing that is limiting dealers' ability to sell more cars, their ability to put more units in operation, their ability to gain market share in today's competitive market, is that used is run independent of used, new is run independent of used, finance is run independent of, and I think it's costing globally.
They butt heads.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And it's costing car deals.
Yep.
It literally is, where we should just be finding a reason to say yes. Again, that is the theme of this podcast, it seems to be. CNA says yes. What's the hardest leadership lesson you've learned in your time at CNA National? And the one that you wish more leaders would understand?
That's a tough one. Well, I guess it's not. So the hardest lesson for me was getting out of my own way, if that makes sense. So really being open-minded to change, being open-minded to looking at things through a different lens. When you've been highly successful in the past, like we were, and then you get into some choppy waters. You know, COVID, of course, challenged a lot of different providers and stuff. And what you normally would do doesn't work anymore. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, and some people will fail because they can't let go of what made them successful before, and they can't get creative and get out of their own way. And personally, I had to take some hard looks into myself. You know, I was like, what am I doing? And you know, am I causing some of the stress on the team by being resistant to looking at things through a different lens? You know, and once I did that, it helped tremendously. But you also have to do it with others within the organization, especially longer tenured folks that are there. Long tenure is a great thing, and sometimes it isn't.
A blessing.
Yes. And luckily for me, I was able to make that shift. Some others maybe struggle a little longer, or maybe still struggling a little bit, in which case we're working with those folks. But I would say that was my biggest challenge, was just opening my mind up, being more open. And that's where we really started to embrace that we will try things out. We may fail, but we're going to learn from those, and we're going to pick up and adapt and do better. And then just being very honest with myself on where my shortcomings are at and what do I need to grow and learn on, and lean on other people, because that's I don't like to ask for help. And I've learned that I need to raise my hand more and ask for help, and I have it. It's never been a problem there. It's not like I don't have the help. I just don't like to ask for it, right? And I've gotten away from that as well, right? Not afraid to ask for help, and not afraid of failing and stepping back up, and you know. And then now it's my turn to share those lessons with everybody else.
That's a great answer, Michael. That is a great answer. Where do you see VSC claims heading in the next 3 to 5 years? Same business, new tools, or do you think it's genuinely going to be a completely different game that we're playing?
I think it's changing every day. I mean, it's very, very challenging right now. Technology in the cars is getting pretty crazy, right? You know, these are just computers on wheels. You know, I mean, these things are even more complex than the space shuttle, was today. And so I do see, the service contract industry changing to, really kind of head that head on. Are you going to have comprehensive coverages? Are you going to have separate coverages for technology? Are you going to, I could see things happening where you're going to maybe separate those things out, because there's an affordability problem, folks. I mean, cars are getting super expensive. They're getting to the point where your service contracts are getting very expensive to be able to support all the new technologies. And so something's got to give at some point. So we got to be a little more creative, on the product development side, to get something out there that is affordable, but also takes care of the customer's concerns, as well. EVs, whether we like it or not, are here to stay. They may have taken a little stagnation temporarily, but hybrids are very, very big right now, right? And That's still a form of EV, say. So we're going to have to be addressing that situation. Of course, at CNA, we did kind of foresee that. Luckily, we had a leader, Johan, who was kind of forthright. It helped us get some training and some very specific training from an engineering firm to learn about EVs. I'd probably love to go back out there because I will tell you, it's what I learned out at that trip was that stuff. It's like computers. It is
Right.
updating every 6 months. And Tesla, for example, is doing model year changes and updates to their cars mid-year. They had one of their Model 3s that had a completely different front subframe mid-year. It went from this welded piece to like a cast piece. Mid-year, they changed motor design mid-year. It's constantly changing. And so that's going to be one of the challenges as an industry that we're going to have to stay up in front of is staying on top of the new technologies and being educated and making sure that the claims team is aware of what's out there and how to adjudicate those claims going forward. That's one of our challenges that we're going to be having to look at and continue to look at going forward.
What will a modern claims operation look like in 2030? And building upon that, what habits are going to disappear and what habits that you're likely doing now as best practice will become mandatory?
I do think AI is going to have a place in there. Whether it's doing some form of self-adjudication or not is yet to be seen, depending on the current capabilities of the AI. One of the big advantages that I've seen in the AI is the reporting capabilities and what it can provide, real views, especially dealership-specific behaviors, even down maybe the service advisor level, things of that sort, to be able to provide and partner with our dealers better so they understand where their business is coming from. I think that would, and what their behaviors are and who's driving those at their store levels, I think will be really important going forward. It's only 4 years away. It sounds like it's far,
I know,
right?
it does. It does.
2030 sounds far, but it's not. It's not very far, but definitely going to be technology driven. I would imagine there's going to be some level of self-adjudication that will help that, but you can definitely utilize the technology tools to help monitor and track and provide feedback and real-time information to the team so that we can go in and stay in front of it. I'm not a big fan of being reactive to things. I'd like to be proactive and stay in front when you start seeing trends and whatnot, and I think that the technology tools will help us be a lot more nimble in that space going forward.
Please name that system Hal.
I cannot. Oh, HAL 2000.
HAL 2000. Now we're going to move into the fun stuff. We're nearing the close, so we're gonna do some rapid fire questions. Steve, you got anything else to add before we move into those?
I got a rapid fire.
You might want to take a sip for this.
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I need
These are the rapid fires, but I'm gonna. You just give me a nod when you want me to give. I have one, so you just go ahead. We'll mix it in.
Wrap us up.
Are these just
Nothing
yes
else.
no questions or no?
No, never that easy.
It's
but
what is your favorite color?
nothing that easy.
What is the
either.
speed of an African swallow's wings? Got a little Monty Python there. I told them to put some of those in there.
Orange, 130 miles an hour. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue, no gray.
What's the weirdest claim you've ever seen come across your desk?
Yeah, I wanted to hear this one.
Go.
Gap claim. Of
Okay.
all things. So, and it was early on when we first launched out Gap. Gentleman had lost his vehicle off the edge of a cliff. It was a Cadillac. I'll never forget it because it was a large claim. It was like a $20-something thousand gap, right? Turns out his insurance company denied the claim because he backed it off the cliff intentionally. Okay. So we were going to deny the claim as well because, it was an intentional act. The problem is his wife was also on his insurance plan. And so she's insured even for an act that he did.
Oh,
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah. And so that was like one of the weirdest ones.
so
was
they
easy
were
for
able
me
to walk away, but you couldn't?
We could not.
Oh.
And it was frustrating because it was definitely an intentional, act. So that was a weird gap claim. VSC claims, there's so many of them, right? I mean, we're doing over 2,000 of these a day, so it's hard to say. But you'll get these giant Mercedes-Benz claims, right? And I'm just, like the other day I had one come, and the thing had 50 line items on it.
Oh, my.
I mean, you talk about rebuilding a car. I mean, this is literally one of those cases. And what was crazy is we, of course, inspected. In fact, we inspected multiple times, all verified.
No way.
And it's just so.
And total of the claim?
So note to self, it was north of 30.
You just answered
Yeah,
that.
it was. It
You
was
just
north of-
answered the second question. What's the one make or model that gives your adjusters the most headaches? We'll move on from that one.
anything
Oh,
highlighting
I saw
European.
Yeah.
I saw a $32,000 Porsche claim once. So
Yes. Yeah.
What is a claims topic you care deeply about that almost nobody asks you about?
Ask me about.
may I remind you, these are rapid fire questions.
I don't know. I don't know if I could answer that one. I don't.
Move on to the next.
Okay.
What's a rule? You can come back to it. What's a rule or piece of contract language everybody fears that you think actually makes sense once you understand it?
Maintenance. It's
Lack of
Yeah.
required maintenance. Yeah.
yeah. It's a maintenance one. People don't. And they don't understand that they have to be able to provide proof of it, right? That's one of the biggest, key piece. They're like, well, I changed my own oil.
In 1975, getting
Yeah.
a receipt of your own
It's
oil
like,
you
well-
bought might have worked.
Well,
Not anymore.
the Jello mold in your oil pan says otherwise, but yeah, okay.
What is a dealership turnaround story you almost never tell publicly but wish more people could hear? You don't have to name them.
I think we've had one, haven't we? Somebody was able to turn around the behavior. We've had multiple.
Yeah, we've had several.
What was the behavior?
It was claims, aggressive claims behavior, and but in those cases, you partner.
You sit down with everybody and say, okay, here's what this impacts, this impacts, this impacts. And then people go, oh, okay. And then it's
Yeah.
kind of like the whole putting your name on the building. If you understand and you're willing to work within those, great. If you say, yeah, that's not me, then you're not part of the team.
Right.
And we're moving on. I mean,
Yeah, and we actually had one recently. It was an inactive store, so somebody who was with us in the past isn't with us now, and they were having some challenges. And actually, it was Josh in this case was able to have a talk with the fixed ops director over there, give him some insight on what was going on, and lo and behold, things are back in line. And it happens that fast. And what it is, it's that transparency. It's like, here's what we're seeing. You're not being accusatory. You're just being honest.
it's not knowing what your advisor doing. Like you were talking
A
about
lot of times
earlier.
they're in the dark on
They
it.
just don't know.
They are.
That's right.
100%. If you could rebuild the VSC industry from scratch tomorrow, here you go. What's the first thing you'd change?
In 10 words or less. No, I'm just kidding.
10 words. What's the first thing I'd change?
Yeah.
There's probably 20 things I would change. I don't know. First thing I would change in the VSC industry. I think they're way too expensive.
There you go.
It's like and I mean there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's definitely one of the Achilles heel of that industry for sure right now.
Easy one for you. What's the most preventable disaster you've watched unfold inside a claim?
Preventable disaster. It's lack of information. I mean, it comes back down to that where we weren't given all the information right up front, and so assumptions are being made. Things are going down a path. There's inspections being added when the only thing that needed to happen was some transparency and clarity from the store right from the start.
I assume that's how you're going to answer that. What's one sentence you wish every finance manager in America would read tomorrow morning?
You could read tomorrow morning.
Please follow the maintenance required by the manufacturer.
Don't say
Go
bumper
ahead.
to bumper anymore.
Okay,
That's
don't
it.
say
That's
bumper,
it.
bumper,
That's it. Exactly. What's one habit your great adjusters share that has nothing to do with claims?
One great habit that they shared has nothing to do with claims.
These are hard ones today. My God, these aren't colors and shapes.
I would say
No, we don't do colors and
They-
shapes in here.
my team has they are all characters, right? They're humorous. We have fun. They come to work with a positive attitude. I would say most everybody. I mean, it's a big team, right? So you can't be perfect with everybody, but I just see that the morale is high, the engagement's high, and they come with a very positive attitude.
Steve, you've got the next question.
Fixed or rotary?
Fixed.
You guys have got to expand on that.
Well, okay, you're a certified pilot in not real airplanes, not passenger airplanes, but in just about anything else you can put in the sky.
Yes.
You race drones.
Yep.
You've raced prop planes, jet planes. What haven't you? Well, you've raced. Okay, I'm going to be nice and not talk about that you raced. You tried to race boats once. That didn't end well.
It did not end well. It's a good story, though.
But the real question was whether, you race drones, like really fast drones.
Yes.
150?
I think my fast one was a little over 130. Yeah.
And that's not as fun as fixed?
No. I'd rather fly RC planes than drones. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My son, I think, is.
Remember,
the
go back to the
opposite.
very beginning, tearing apart Christmas presents? He puts it back together and flies them.
Yeah. Yeah. So my son and I
That's too cool.
we build racing drones, the FPV racing drones, like you see in the DRL League and stuff. We do those.
That is pretty awesome. Mike Bacosa, before I let you go, Steve, I'm going to allow you to close this out today too for us. Before I let you go, I want you to give the audience a practical finish. When a GM, a dealer, or a finance director hears this today and wants to take action in the next 30 days, what are the first 3 things they should do to get more value out of their VSC partnership?
So I think they need to do a deep dive in what is their service department. How are they looking at handling their service contracts on our side? So like I said, it starts with the top, right? Are they upselling things that aren't need to be upsold? And where is that coming from? Is it coming from the technicians, to your point? It could start from there where the technicians are recommending work that aren't needed, or is it the service advisor pushing those types of things? I think that's something that dealer principal in this particular doesn't have a lot of visibility on in some cases. And then if they don't know, ask. We have a ton of information, right? We have a ton of data. It's pretty easy for us to be able to provide some insights and benchmarking and whatnot for them to be able to have a good idea of what their claims experience is with us.
That's awesome.
Buddy, I hope this wasn't as scary as you thought it was going to be. Hope
was
you
fun.
enjoyed it.
I did. Thank
I know
you.
we probably didn't fill the glass high enough, but just the same.
There's more over there.
Just the same.
We'll get that last drop out of there.
Cheers and appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brent.